What's up, everybody? Curtis can't be with us tonight. He texted me earlier and said he had something come up and he's not going to be able to join us. So I sent a few invites out, and if anybody wants to hop in here and we can talk about some stuff, that'd be great. Um, so it looks like we got two people watching. So I don't know how long we'll go tonight. We may go just for a little while. We may go for longer. We'll see. Depends on how many people we get in here. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I'll be more than happy to send you the link. So we've got a couple of podcasts that I've put together. I just haven't finished them. Work all of a sudden just went nuts, and I'm running about 3 to 3.5 weeks out. I've been working on average. Do something with this here so it's not. I don't know why it's fading in and out. That's kind of weird. But I've been averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of about 16 to 18 hours a day. Been running service calls and installs during the day, trying to work 3 nights a week for at least 4 hours at the church job. And then got to come home and do paperwork and whatnot. So it's last couple of weeks have been actually more than a couple. It's been about 3 weeks now. It's been really hectic. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Not complaining, just stressful. So, but it's good. I mean, so. But kind of trying to watch the chat here if anybody's interested in or got questions. So, but we have had some, or I have made some changes on our pricing, and we've got a new dispatching software that we're doing. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. So, but I went with, actually, let me back up here. I hired a new technician. He's working out really good. I've been getting really good feedback. Curtis is in the chat. He says, I'm there in spirit, love. In spirit, love all my adoring fans. But I got a new technician. He's working out really good. So far, I have not much to complain about with him at all. Of course, you're always going to have that little bit of stuff you got to do with with somebody when they first start. You got to get them lined out and how you as the owner want things done. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But he's very receptive to the way I do things and the way I want them done. I've had nothing but positive feedback from customers who I've talked to after he's been there. The company he was working for, they were using a flat rate pricing, and it was actually a flat rate pricing that I was looking into about 8 months or so ago, but just was leery of pulling the trigger on going to flat rate. And after talking to him about it and the success that the company he was working for was having with it, which that company's not really in my area. They're about 45 miles south of me. So our service areas overlap slightly, but not much. So I reached out to the flat rate company and talked to them, and we got set up with flat rate. And then we went to also started using a dispatching software now that I'm trying to keep track of everybody and wanting to get everybody where they need to be and keep track of what they're doing and all that. And so went with it's called House Call Pro. And hey, what's up, Eric? That was weird. Yeah, you sound like it's like a tiny robot voice. He'll probably be back in a minute. But anyways, the House Call Pro is working out really good. I've actually had my wife sit through on the webinar on it, how to use it. So she's able to, I can forward emails and voicemails and people's information to her. She's also now receiving the home advisor stuff that comes through for service calls. So she's able to get on top of it and get people scheduled, and it's working out quite well. So
how about now?
Oh, that's much better. Yeah, you sounded like a tiny cartoon robot.
People said that. I've joined the Hangouts before, and I had to do the same thing, just leave and come back. Now, if you say you're broadcasting on YouTube, why do I not see it?
It's on the Bowers House.
Or something you're broadcasting?
Yeah, it's on the Bowers House podcast page is the one that, because originally me and Curtis were going to do it, and then Curtis had something come up.
He said he couldn't do it yesterday.
Huh?
He's the one who said he couldn't do a Hangout yesterday, and now he does this.
I don't know. It's about ready. I could be mean and say it's about ready to come the house podcast, but I can't really say that because I've been as guilty as he has been here lately of not being able to commit time to it. So how's the weather in South Florida?
It's wonderful.
Are you getting close to triple digits yet?
We don't really get triple digits here. It's kind of weird how that goes. We just kind of hover like right around, and maybe it's the humidity.
Yeah. I'm supporting the Carrier ICP tonight with my free tumbler I got from the Bryant Supply House. Make the Cowboys happy. We had to go to a supply house. We were doing a job up north, and there was a supply house up there that we had to go to because the part that we needed, that was the only place to get it. And very nice people that own it. It's a kind of they sell Luxair and Guardian, but they used to be a sheet metal shop. Like they used to be contractors that got into doing just doing distribution. And the owner was really nice. I'm not a big fan of Luxair or Guardian equipment, but they loaded us down with like hats and can koozies and notepads, and it's amazing the stuff that they'll give you whenever they're trying to get your business.
Who uses notepads anymore?
I've got so many notepads that in the truck that are like one page, like the first two pages may have something scratched on them, and then the rest of it's in like down between the seats or in the floorboard. Or
that's why I just started using the Note app on my phone. I mean, at first I'm like, I don't want to use this. It's in my phone, but now it's like the only one that I can actually know that I'll have. And you can voice to text in it too, so it's even better. So you could just talk to it, and it all comes up. So something to keep in mind. I mean, pretty much every phone's going to have that.
Yeah, I've got the new Galaxy S8, and it's got that new. It's almost like Siri for iPhone, but I haven't played around with it. Matter of fact, I haven't even set it up yet because I just haven't took the time to play with it.
Yeah, but you probably have a Note app that's just sitting right there that you can pop open, and I've been using that like exclusive. Like I said, I'm the same way.
Looky here.
I can't keep track of those tablets.
You run your mouth, Eric, I show up.
That's what I have to do? That's what I have to do? I thought you were out tonight getting more sandwiches.
No, I've been doing a lot of stuff around trying to get ready for next week. It's gotten real busy here the last few days. I just sold that change out today that I went on earlier this morning, so that's due to do next week, and it's not even beginning. So it's finally starting to get busy. So when you're a one-man show, you got to do these things.
When are you going to start that job that had the R22 coil?
He can't come up with the money.
Oh.
So I guess they're gonna have to get a window unit.
R22.
But I got to do I'm doing a video. I'm doing a video on that, and then I'm doing a long paragraph story on that.
Why don't you just pull all the 410A in it and drop 407C in it and get him going?
Hey, Eric, I found a Goodman, mind you, heat pump with 410A Goodman heat pump on a 1971 air handler, straight AC. Did you get me?
You popped the coil?
No, they didn't do nothing. It was a 1971 Carrier air handler, and they put a 2016 13-series Goodman 410A heat pump on it. I put the gauges on it, and it was flat on charge, man.
Yeah, like I said, it popped the coil.
Yeah. So, hey.
Probably in heating mode, because I don't think in cooling mode it would pop it.
Yeah, we're losing Curtis.
I didn't know if it was just me or not.
But anyway, fellas, I gotta go. But seriously, I wanted to just come on here because Eric was running his little mouth.
That's right.
We'll see if.
Hopefully,
we'll see if he.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say he'll bust out some footlongs here in a minute. You'll be back.
He does have me spoiled for them footlongs, I swear.
I think some of the funniest pictures I saw online were where people Photoshop like adult movie pictures to make them like safe for work. And
That's crazy, man. It was sick and crazy at the same time. But anyway, hey,
I thought it was hilarious.
Hey, oh shoot, I was gonna say, how about me and you join Mike Palace's next week?
That'll work.
Okay.
Is it next week or the week after?
I don't know. Is next Friday the last Friday of the month?
Oh, look.
Let's see. Let's pull up the calendar app on the old phone here. Let's see here. Where?
And I'll commit right now. I'll commit right now to the whole YouTube community.
The 26th.
Next Friday.
Next Friday.
Okay.
Calendar app in your phone. I'm gonna send you a reminder.
Yeah, I'll commit to that date. Trust me, it's going to be a busy, and I'll have a lot to talk about and a lot to video. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, man, Chris, if we can do a podcast tomorrow, cool. If not, we'll try one next week. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a call tomorrow.
All right, man. Hey, sorry I couldn't be there. Love you guys. Later.
See ya.
Bye.
So when you guys starting all those, what'd you say you had 10 train inverters that are going in some big house?
Yeah, those were already started. I don't know how far along that project's going.
Oh, okay.
I won't be there for it. I've really been having to do installs.
Yeah, I didn't know if they'd send you to do like the commissioning and startup or not.
Far. There's some that have zoning, and I don't know if they'll get sent for some of those or not. A lot of them are running, so we're not in like a hurry to change them all.
Okay.
We had all the condensers seacoast treated. Yeah, they even put inverter units for the garages. Like each garage has a unit, and their inverter systems. I'm like, why? Why would you bother? But that's what they did.
Huh. That's odd.
Hey, sell that inverter system, I guess,
mean,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I had the pictures I sent you of that old you guys in like the group text we do of the old space pack unit that was in the attic that they took the lid off of a tote and put under it and drilled a hole through the side of it for an auxiliary drain pan because the bottom of the air handler had rotted out.
Yeah.
I sold a Bosch 2-ton inverter on that job, and honestly, I didn't even think that the guy would go, because we do that the flat rate that does like the different levels of pricing for each, and he's like, well, he said, if I can get the financing, he said, I'll just do the platinum. He said, what do I get with that? And I said, well, that would put you into an inverter and, new duct work and, line set hide for the line set and all the bells and whistles. And he's like, well, run my app and see if I get approved for that one. And he did. And he's like, okay, that's what we'll do. So we're doing the 2-ton Bosch system on that one. And it was straight AC before. And he's got electric cable heat in the ceiling. And I told him, I was like, do you want us to run new power up there for heat strips in the air handler? He said, no. He said, just do straight heat pump and AC. And he said, if I've got to have some extra heat, he said, we'll just use the cable heat in the ceiling. It's like, cool. Works for me.
That's the only way you're going to get your money out of that unit is to use it in heating mode up there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was, but I've got him, he'll be the last week of this month, like Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month. We're running about, right now, after that job was put in on installs, we're running 3 weeks out. So unless it's an emergency, and then we'll do it, in the evening or something if we've got one that we got to do right away for someone who's older or whatever, or got little kids.
Yeah.
So it is nice having some sort of dispatching software now. It's making things a lot easier as far as who's where and what they're doing and, things like that. And so it's just the learning curve of learning the software.
Well, that's good to hear that you're busy. I'm 3 weeks behind.
What's that?
It's good to hear that you're busy and you're 3 weeks behind on changeouts.
Yeah. It's like I said, I'm not complaining. It's just stressful. Like working evenings 3 nights a week at the church, trying to get that job caught up. But
oh yeah, you had a big job going there. How much you got left to do on
that? Next week we'll be starting running all the refrigeration lines for the mini splits. And if the weather holds out, we'll get all the condensers mounted outside. So, but it's not looking very good for that because they still doing a lot of dirt work around the outside of the building. So every time it rains, it turns into soup. So, but hopefully we'll get all the line sets at least ran in the walls and all that, and control wire and drains. And so it's just a weird job because we're to the point where everything being done right now is all volunteer work through church members. So it's like, some, like, they may have a work day this Saturday, like today they might have had a work day and they got a bunch done. And then they'll be calling me on Monday like, hey, we're caught up to you. We need you to get this done right away because we're going to have another work day Wednesday night. So I'm doing a lot of bouncing around on my part of it to get, do what I got to do to get ahead of them for whatever it is that they're going to be working on with their volunteers on whatever days they schedule. So it's definitely drawn out. Like, back when we were slow and when this job bid last October, I signed the contract on the job November 1st of last year. They broke ground for the building in December, and it was January, February, March, middle March before the building was even close to being done. It was like beginning of April before we were ever really able to get in there and start doing anything. So it's like, and that wasn't, and they keep changing everything on it, and like it's kind of a disaster, really, because everything's been changed so many times. Like, I'm not even doing stuff that was even originally planned to be done. So I've got a lot of work on my end, just paperwork, trying to figure out hours and materials that weren't originally bid and what I need to do there, because like I found out I was one of the only contractors on the job. The plumber had some stuff that he bid, that was an actual bid, but he got to the point where he just told him, he's like, I'm timing material from here out because everything's changed. And that's about where I'm at on it. Like the other day, they asked me to move one of my drain lines for one of the wall heads for the mini splits. And I just told him, it's like, that's fine, but if I've got to drill through 15 studs to run that line over there instead of down through the floor onto the ground level the way I originally planned, then I'm going to have to give you a change order for that. He's like, well, how long is it going to take you? I said, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half extra. He's like, well, what if I drill the holes for you and then you just run the line? I said, that's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine. But I said, if I'm going to have me or one of my guys drill the holes through all those studs, then you're going to pay for it.
That's the way it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's just where I'm at on it. So, but we got the duck socks up and the returns built. That was another ordeal. Originally, the return for that 20-ton unit was going to come in, go across above the ceiling in the storage area, and then have a big common return through a block wall into the gymnasium. And I had designed it to have a couple of elbows in it and some transitions to help keep it quiet. Well, they didn't want to do that, and they changed their mind. So now it comes off the 20-ton unit, has one transition in it, one elbow, and then comes up 8 foot, and then there's a grill cut into the side of the duck, and then the storage room basically becomes a giant return plenum, and they made me put transfer grills through the block wall. I told them, I was like, them double doors on the other end of this room are going to have to be louvered, because I said, if they're not, I mean, some older person or a kid, if that unit's running in second stage, they're never going to get these doors open. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not happy about it, but they don't want to really give me any play. They're like, well, that should work. Well, it should in theory, but, I mean, so, and then they said, well, we saved you a bunch of ductwork by doing it that way. Well, you did, but what about all the labor of now having to, custom make all these, transfer grills, because it's in a gymnasium and they didn't want factory transfer grills because they were afraid that they'd get beat up by basketballs. So now we're doing expanded metal, and I've got to cut it and make frames and weld it. And so, that's why I told them, I was like,
you got to be good for airflow too.
Yeah. It'll definitely help. So, but it's just it's turned into an ordeal. But I'm trying to just maintain and try and keep everybody happy and see what happens. So,
Am I dropping out of the hangout? You're cutting out for me there a lot.
No, you're still here.
Yeah, I thought I was about to drop.
What was it, me that was cutting out?
You're cutting out for me, but that doesn't mean that it.
Yeah, I lost you a little. I lost you just for a second there. See, I don't have the best service at the moment.
Okay.
So let's see what we got here. Hook it up to the. Change it over to this Wi-Fi. See if that helps us out any.
Oh, you're doing it on your phone?
I'm on my Surface, which is on cell service, but.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're probably gonna want that on Wi-Fi. But
Well, my Wi-Fi is
also. It could just as easily. Yeah, it could just as easily be my connection. I'm trying not to have any extra tabs.
Are you on call this weekend?
Nope. That LG unit that I've been doing work on constantly broke down again today, and I was not on call to have to deal with it. I was like, nope, not me.
The one that's used like 4,000 pounds of 410A.
The one that keeps blowing up circuit boards, it blew up again today. Broke the board again.
Wow.
First they had us change the board that broke. Then the next time they had us change the board that broke and another board. Then the next time they had us change 3 boards, and now it's broke again. Same problem.
Wow.
The fan inverter board keeps blowing up.
And LG has it like
overcurrent. Yeah, I have the guy from LG for the whole Southeast US. I have him in my phone right now. And that's who I've been dealing with on it. And he wants to come fly out to the site, but he hasn't had a chance yet. And it's like, dude, come here and do something, because we're going through every procedure that's in the manual of the people who design the unit, and we're doing everything that they're telling us to do, and the unit's not fixed.
Huh, that's crazy.
I mean? They built it, they put 4 circuit boards in it, and they came up with the procedures on how to troubleshoot. So it's kind of, in the customer's eyes, it's my fault, but it's out of my hands. I didn't build the unit, I didn't design the unit, and I definitely didn't come up with how to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. And they even tell you, they're like, well, you can only really check certain things because there's some stuff that there's just no way to test. And it's just like, what good does that do me?
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do, basically, is what they're saying. Like, basically, we don't know what's wrong with the unit. It's just going to keep breaking after a week.
Now, is it still
lasts like 2 weeks?
Is it still under warranty?
Nope. So
every time this happens, the people who own the equipment have to pay for these boards.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, the first board we replaced was warranty, right? Well, not warranty. The first board we replaced it, and it blew up immediately. So they warrantied it, and then it blew up, and then they warrantied it, but they made us pay for the inverter board. So then both boards blew up, and they warrantied both boards, and then they made us pay for the main PCB board. So that's where we're at now with it. So the customers only paid for each board one time, but they paid for our labor every time, because we can't take responsibility for that. It's not our fault. We're doing everything we're supposed to do.
I bet they are getting pretty irritated. And I mean, they have every right to be, but
we didn't install the equipment. We don't recommend the equipment. They're ready to rip it out. The customer's ready to rip everything out. All 8 condensers and all 37 air handlers. They're just over it, because every air handler's constantly leaking. I mean, every time I go there, I'll find an air handler down. They'll be down 75 pounds, 150 pounds of gas, somewhere in that range. I'll have to go find it, valve it off, get approval, order a coil, put a coil in. The one they wanted me to try to patch, because it was a rub out on a cap tube, but I kept patching it and it just kept leaking. Patch it, pressurize it, another leak. Patch it, pressurize it, another leak. Patch it, pressurize it. It was holding. I evacuated it. and then I pressurized it with refrigerant, and then I shoved the cap tubes back in, and I heard tink, and another cap tube started leaking. How are cap tubes leaking? That's normal thickness copper. That shouldn't be leaking. The coil itself, that's a thinner copper because it's heat transfer, but a cap tube is not. So why is a cap tube leaking on a copper cap tube on a unit that's that young? And it's not leaking where it touched another cap tube. It's just leaking where it's on the outside of a bend radius. But it has it has a huge bend on it. It's not kinked. It's like the bend is like that long.
Are they cracking laterally or bilaterally with the direct, the tube?
Like a pinhole cracks in it.
Really?
Like it's not even, it basically a pinhole opens up.
I wonder if it was something where from when they extruded it, maybe it's like a defect in it.
From what I've heard, it's not limited to LG because most of the companies or all of the companies that get VRF get them from the same person. But we have an account with a Mitsubishi City Multi and 16 air handlers, and I've only seen one of those leak so far. But it's fairly new as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see like what the longevity on these systems is going to be, in comparison to, like just a standard, rooftop package units and stuff like that.
I think it's going to just get smashed out of existence by the EPA because they're going to say nope.
Too much loss involved with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if the EPA actually does a case study on VRFs, they're going to see like how many leaks they have and just be like, no, you guys got to stop it with this crap.
Right.
There's too much refrigerant, man. You're talking a 20-ton system with 150 pounds of gas in it.
Right.
It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, when I was doing commercial work, we did quite a few. It was always like I was a sheet metal worker, so it was always composite crews. So it was like, it would doing like VRVs and VRFs, things like that. It was always like one tinner, one plumber. Tinners helped hang it, and they done the duct work, and then the plumbers done all the refrigeration. But I know that we was on a job, and there was a bunch of refrigeration lines that didn't get purged properly with nitrogen when they were doing all the joints, and it turned into a disaster because it was causing problems with EEVs and all kinds of stuff, and it was a major deal because a lot of that line was in wall chases and above ceilings and between walls that had no access to it, and it was a major ordeal. So,
not surprised. People don't run nitrogen.
What's that?
People don't run nitrogen.
Yeah.
People around me, they think that nitrogen, you can't even convince them to run a vacuum pump. You think you're going to convince them to run nitrogen?
Yeah, my new guy, first day I had him braze something in. I told him, I said, hey, make sure that you flow nitrogen whenever you're doing that. And I left. I came back, and he said, hey, I got the outside unit or the outside lines brazed in, but I didn't do the inside yet. And I seen the torches sitting there, and I seen the nitrogen bottle sitting there, but it didn't have the flow meter on it. And I asked him, I said, did you use nitrogen to braze those in? No, I've never used a flow meter before. I was like, crap. So I was like, all right, I said, well, I'm going to show you something here. So I took the valve cores out, and I shot about 400 PSI through it, and I had him hold a rag over the other end inside. And when he pulled the rag off, you could see the black circles on it. And he's like, man, nobody's ever required me to do that. It's like, well, we're going to flush them now. So we flushed them out and got them cleaned up the best we could, but he knows now to do it. So, and it's not like it was his first day. He's been doing it for a while. Just he never worked for anybody that required him to do that. And I told him, I was like, I don't care what you're doing. And it's like, just do it on everything. Just make it habit. You know, I said it only costs $13 to get a refill on nitrogen. You're not using that much to do it. I mean, it's simple. Just hook it up and do it that way every time, no matter what you're brazing. So
well, down here, there's you go to the supply house and you can sit there all day and watch them load up equipment in these installers' trucks. There ain't no nitrogen or vacuum pump.
yeah,
Not either on their truck. No nitrogen vacuum pump. Of course, no recovery machine, but they're installers, so I guess. But still, I mean, I'm sure there's units that aren't able to be pumped down, and I'm sure I know exactly what they do.
yep. Well, there's Ralph.
What do y'all say, everybody?
Hey, what's
going
on?
on?
Hey, man, me and Zach, and we just got through recording a podcast, and so come over here and see what the hell is going on. What's going on? I was gonna actually have a hangout, but I didn't know that y'all was doing one. So Zach was like, "Well, they're doing one." I was like, "Well, I'll go join it."
Awesome.
So,
All right.
You guys record a good one tonight, did you?
yeah, we talked to Brent Ridley tonight.
Oh, cool. So you guys talked inverters then.
We talked about the Zoom lock.
Oh, okay.
Talked about the Zoom lock, and we got some good guests coming up here pretty soon.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Really good guests. So it'll be great. Unlike the Cowboys of HVAC, it's not the bar room brawl kind of deal. Which, there's nothing wrong with that, but some guys are like, well, we want to hear the meat. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got to have the meat and potatoes every once in a while.
Right. So yeah. So we're gonna have the guests from like manufacturers on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, cool.
So it'd be great.
So you've been staying busy down there, or as busy as you want to be, I guess I should say.
That's what I always say. Yeah, I just say as busy as I want to be, and here lately it's busier than I want to be.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's kind of the way I am, man. I'm still at that stage with my business where I can't turn nothing down, even if I should. I can't turn it down.
Well, I have been turning stuff away. I've been actually sending some stuff to Brent because he lives about 45 minutes from me, and so. I just don't want to drive that far anymore, so I send it to him.
Right.
I used to drive an hour and a half, and I'm not going to do it anymore.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm at. I started off last year. This time I would cover 35, 40 miles, no problem, away from Mount Vernon here where I'm based. But I'm kind of starting to tighten that circle up a little bit, just because, I'm starting to get the clientele closer to home. So.
Right.
Why pay the travel?
It doesn't happen overnight. And one thing that does happen is that when you have a big radius like I used to have, I would get a call over here, 45 minutes away. And then I'd get another call, another 45 minutes from on the opposite side of me. And so I'd have a ton of drive time. And I mean, I was making good money, but I spent so much time in the truck, and that average of 35 miles an hour. It's a lot. I mean, I spend more time in the truck. I figured it up. I did a video on it, and it was 40 hours a week I was spending in the truck.
Wow.
That's before I did any work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, now how close are you to like downtown Atlanta? Like you're kind of out in the burbs, right? Like the outer edges.
I'm on the far end of the burbs. So I'm downtown Atlanta. You send me a message on Messenger,
right?
But my problem is I don't get those messages because the way that it's did now when they updated or whatever,
right?
I don't get a notification for messages like that for whatever reason. So I didn't get your message for a while, for about a week.
Yeah, I was driving through. I've got cousins that live down there, and I was on my way to Tignall, Georgia. And
how is that?
It is kind of in between Augusta and what's the town it's got the big university?
Oh, Athens.
Athens. It's kind of in between there, in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Nowhere. Yeah, yeah.
And my GPS told me to take, what was that? Is it 285?
Yeah, 285.
And my lands, and I wasn't even there like what I thought was going to be rush hour, and I mean it was just
it's pretty
locked
bad.
up.
Did you see the signs where they changed the speed limit according to the traffic?
No, I didn't pay any.
They're digital speed limit signs. You'll go through there one time, it'll say 45, and you go through there again, it'll say 65. So it just depends on the traffic. But like that,
I've seen those before too.
yeah, it really matters because you're going to do it as fast as traffic's going to let you do. But
Yeah,
that's just the way to catch the super speeders.
They could be real ignorant and wait till it's like stop and go and put the speed limit at 100.
60, yeah, at 100. But as far as I'm probably downtown Atlanta, I'm probably 35 minutes, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So I'm not that far, but
yeah. Well, see, let's see. My buddy Gary lives in Dallas, Georgia.
yeah, that's not too far. Well, I mean, it's far enough.
And then Gary lives in Douglasville.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they live pretty close together.
So
yeah, I'm not that far away from them, but I'm probably from Dallas and Douglasville. It just depends on how you go in the traffic. Douglasville is a little further than Dallas, so I'm probably about an hour, 15 minutes from Douglasville, because you got to go around 285 to get
right.
So
yeah, I made the mistake of thinking, oh, I'll get off at 285 and I'll take these side streets. That was a mistake. That was almost as bad as if I'd have just sat on the interstate.
Hey, just imagine if you came through when the bridge was out.
Yeah, because see, I was there for a week because that truck had caught on fire and took that bridge out.
Well, no, it wasn't a truck that caught on fire. It was a homeless guy under. They were storing some. The DOT was storing some PVC pipe under the bridge, and there was a homeless guy that caught that PVC pipe on fire, and that pipe is what. That fire from that pipe is what, and there was an 18-wheeler on the bridge. That's what had happened.
Oh man!
Oh yeah. So that's what had happened.
I bet that puts off some good fumes to melt a big pile of PVC like that.
I guess he was. I think he was under there smoking crack or something. So that was.
Come on, man! What else are you gonna do under a bridge in the middle of the night?
Yeah,
you don't have anywhere to go.
Well, unfortunately, it was in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Well, if you're homeless, your schedule's kind of open.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
I don't have to wait till 5 o'clock to smoke crack. I don't have to go to work today.
I can just do it right now. But the DOT got in trouble. Well, for storing a pipe under there. But the guy was like, "It's no different than putting a plastic cup in your cabinet. It's not going to catch on fire, unless somebody catches it on fire."
Right.
So always gotta blame somebody besides the person whose fault it actually was. That's the day and age we live in.
That's the problem with today's age.
It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Who can I blame?
Yeah, somebody's got to take the blame.
Who's got the most money? That's who we're gonna blame.
Yeah, don't blame them for. I mean, it's storage. That's just nothing wrong with storing that pipe under there until somebody comes along and starts it on fire. So. But yeah. So where's everybody at anyway? I can't see the chat. Hold on.
Smoking crack next to a big pile of PVC.
Next to a big pile of PVC.
Making PVC crack pipes, man. That's the future right there.
Hey, man. As long as it works.
Well, you'll get extra high,
Yeah. So, Eric, what have you been up to anyway?
Same stuff, different day, man. Just really busy.
Different day. I'm trying to get the chat loaded up.
Starting to get into summertime here.
Yeah, man.
Everything's breaking down.
It's terrible.
Luckily, I'm not on call this weekend.
Well, I'm on call. I'm always on call,
Try-
but I just kind of like, you know what? I'm not gonna. I didn't do anything today. I could have, but I was like, man, I was wore out. It took me 2 days. You're gonna freak out, but it took me 2 days to do an evaporator coil in the attic.
Stretch it out, man. Stretch that job.
It was that damn. I put that slab coil in. I just released a video on it.
I saw that pop up.
Yeah, and let me tell you, that transition. I do all my stuff in the field, all my transitions in the field, and that was a 20-inch transition I had to build, and I couldn't transition. I do all my stuff. Hold on, I couldn't build it in the attic. I had to go downstairs and in the outside, cut the metal, and then bring it back up, and then lay it out up in the attic. I was standing on the attic stairs.
I don't understand why people think it's a good idea to put units in a horizontal application ever, anywhere.
Well, in this attic we had to, or they had to, because there was no.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why are they in there? Give up 9 square feet somewhere else.
Yeah, well, then they would have the no room. They'd have to run chases or whatever. So for the upstairs. I don't know. This house had two systems, one in the basement, one in the attic. So, where are you going to put it? We don't have closets for the mechanical rooms.
Well, they do the same thing here, man. I'm just saying it's stupid.
Yeah.
I'd say our attic stuff here is maybe 15 to 20% of what we do. Everything else is garages, basements, furnace closets, things like that, utility rooms, washer, dryer, furnace, water heater, all crammed into one spot. So
no, ours is, we, for the most part, if we go to a house with a closet install, it's very rare.
Yeah. The ones I like is whenever they did a remodel and they turned a like a laundry room into, say, like a bathroom or something like that, and they built a closet around the furnace, and they weren't paying attention because they'd never had to have it serviced, and they put the door on the wrong side, so like the door faces the side of the unit, not the front of it.
Right.
And you inform them that they have to cut their wall that they built a year ago out to be able to service their unit.
Right.
So we've had a couple of those.
I got one where I have to cut the ceiling out to get to it.
That's crazy. They built a house around the furnace.
I never seem to get approval. I tell people, they're like, yeah, the fan motor, there's a bearing noise coming from it. Okay, yeah, you access that unit through the bottom. You know what's under the unit? The ceiling.
Uh-huh.
It's going to have to be cut out of there because it's a pancake unit that they put horizontal, and then they put a ceiling under it.
Oh my God!
The control box is on the side, so yeah, you can get to the controls, but you can't get to the motor or anything else.
I used to work for a company that did all apartments. That's all they did, and I worked on a ton of those pancake units, and what a pain! What a pain, that design, and they were all above the bathtub, so it was almost impossible to work on them because you could barely get your ladder up there. You'd have to put your ladder inside the bathtub, lean it against the wall, then stand up on it, just stand up on the rung. But I changed a couple of motors in those things. That was years ago. I try to stay away from those units now because most of them are in Atlanta, and I don't do any work in Atlanta anymore.
Yeah, they're bad when they're in ridiculous spots. We got a customer that has a bunch, and they put them in the attic. So they're literally on a drain pan in the attic, and they're supposed to be serviced through the bottom.
Right.
And I had to patch an evaporator coil on one. and I had to make it come out the top of the unit because you can get to the top fine. They got plenty of above them, but I'm like, who the heck does this?
Right. It's just installing contractors. I've seen split geothermals stacked on top of each other. Now the thing with working on a split geothermal is if the compressor is messed up, you have to take the top of it off. So if that bottom or the middle compressor messes up, you got to take the top one off.
So it's a horizontal geothermal?
No, it's a pack. Well,
I work on water source heat pumps, and it's the same unit they're going to use for that application. I've worked on horizontal.
It's not a horizontal. It's a split. It's a split.
It's a split It's a split water source.
Yeah, it's a split. Where the air handler's up, air handler's up in the attic or whatever, and then a condenser and the coil and that stuff setting like in a basement or whatever.
Yeah, the split ones are very rare around here, but I've seen them.
Yeah. We used to. That guy I used to do that work for. Most of his stuff's in Atlanta, so I was like, man, I'm gonna stop going down to Atlanta too. So, I just I'm getting kind of ornery. I really want to work a 10-mile radius. Is all I want to work. Nothing wrong with that.
No, if you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
Find some big commercial accounts that'll keep you busy enough.
I don't want to do commercial work. Oh, actually, I was pumping gas yesterday or the day before, and the train commercial sales guy pulled up next to me, and he started getting gas, and I was on the phone, and I got off the phone because he started walking up to my truck. I didn't know who he was. I thought he was a customer, and he introduced himself as a train commercial sales guy. Asked me if I ever did commercial. I said, nah. Honestly, the ladders are on the truck, but they're just for looks because I really don't want to get them off.
I have a commercial building that has 450 regular split carrier ACs, all vertical air handlers in closets, and all the condensers are on the roof.
Wow.
You could just live there, man.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. You wouldn't. I don't need a ladder for that building.
Well, no, but a lot of guys like at United. I used to go down to United in Atlanta, and those guys would be McKinney's. It's a big union contractor here, and they have their own buildings that they take care of, and they just hang out at the supply house until they get calls. But yeah, no, I'm just trying to. Yeah, so you do it too, huh? Just go hang out at the supply house until you get a call.
Actually, I hung out on a rooftop the other day while I was waiting for approval after I diagnosed the unit, and then we chucked a motor in it, and then I left. I love rooftops, especially rooftop package units.
Right.
Everybody leaves you alone. Everything's right there. I don't have to worry about anything.
Come up there and watch you do.
I don't care if people watch, but I mean, basically you don't have to, like you said, set up a ladder in a freaking bathtub and then contort yourself to try to have your head like this.
Yep. You're kind of arched. Yeah.
Trying to get motors out from over your head, cutting like a million cable ties in those pancake units and taking out bundles of wires and trying to figure out what people did.
Yep. And then, God forbid, one of the relays go bad.
Yeah.
No, it's I don't know. I'm actually be honest with you. I'm actually trying to get on with a manufacturer. So
doing tech support.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that before. It was a while ago.
Yeah, that was one. But it's funny how this business is. It was between me and a guy that used to work at Mitsubishi. He got the job because of his mini split experience, and 6 months after he got that job, they said, "Man, you got so much mini split experience. We're going to move you to a different department." So now he's doing mini splits, and now that job came open again. But I called the regional tech guy, the manager, and he said, they got somebody for that one already. They're just waiting on the background check. This one's actually another manufacturer. So
maybe he'll fail it.
Maybe he will. But yeah, so this one's would be a better one. So the one that was between me and the Mitsubishi guy, that's the brand that nobody likes. You know, so
Goodman.
yeah, it was Goodman. But
Oh man. Hey, I tell you what, whoever you're going to be tech support for, I'm going to bug you. I'm going to find out. I'm just going to call you anyway.
that's fine. That's fine. And actually, it's actually the mini split. Actually, it's mini split tech support.
Mini split tech support.
Yeah.
Is there power to the unit? Yeah. Okay, you need a new one.
Yeah. Exactly. You need a new board. Need a new board. Go get your new board.
I'm dealing with that nightmare from LG right now with need a new board, man. We replaced almost every board in the unit, and it just keeps breaking.
Really?
It runs for like a week or two, and it breaks.
Does it just not start up?
The first thing that happened to this unit, there's 3 LG condensers piped together to run 15 or so air handlers.
Right.
This is like a 6 or 7 ton unit, I want to say, and it keeps throwing boards. First, the fan IPM, it's like an inverter board for just the 2 condenser fans.
Mm-hmm.
It has a fault, so they say replace it. We replace the fan IPM, doesn't run. So then we talk to them. We go through all the procedures. It's a 160-page PDF. We do everything we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And we say, well, we call tech support, and they're like, oh, well, replace the inverter, compressor board, and the fan IPM. So the board we just replaced and the inverter board, replace that. Both of those, it runs for like a week or 2. Dies, same problem. So then they say, well, replace the fan IPM, the inverter board, and the main PCB.
Wow.
It ran for 2 weeks. Now it died again. Same problem.
Wow.
Are you guys doing any kind of?
We've also replaced both condenser fans. We tested the voltage every time we were there, man. They're asking all this. We're going through, like, I'm spending an hour and a half. I got the regional guy, the guy that you would be, Ralph,
right.
for LG. I got it in my phone. Like, you don't get that number unless
you have an issue like that.
Unless you're having continuous repeated failures of the same thing after you've talked to their regular and their MVP. Yeah, it's 3-phase.
Yeah, did y'all put a voltage monitor on it?
That's
no.
That's
but
what I
the
was.
thing is, there's 8 condensers there, and none of the other ones has had a problem.
Just that one is having a problem.
It's just that one.
Wow.
I was gonna say I didn't know if they were doing any kind of data logging on that, like maybe
No, they're not.
some sort of.
We're not logging anything.
You could still have an issue with the power somewhere on that one leg.
We could, but they didn't ask us to do a data log on the power.
Right.
And the way that it's failing is not indicative of that being the problem.
Right. Well,
because it's a board that's powered from another board.
Right.
So, I mean, these fans, people that don't know what they're doing, they're going to get really hurt on this unit. It's 700 volts DC.
Oh yeah, that's what when just even on my inverter, those things.
Yeah, you're probably at 440. Right?
Yeah, they're up there pretty high, 500.
Oh, yours might be more. I know the train was 440 DC, which is nothing to.
It's enough to kill you if you don't. I mean, that sticker's on there for a reason. Let that thing die before you even touch it.
Those capacitors on there.
They'll kill you. They will kill you. I mean, that's the nice part. I don't know about trains, but the nice part about the ICP is, the light. It will stay lit until that capacitor is dead. So
hopefully.
Well, hopefully, but unless
mess around with them things.
Yeah.
You can't afford to, man.
Nah. But yeah, it took me 2 days to change an evaporator coil. It was a bitch. It was a bitch. But what are you gonna do?
You got it done, man.
Yeah, I gotta go back and put the flue on because the flue was routed wrong. So I gotta go back and take some flue material over there. And the guy was like, "Well, it's 90 degrees outside. I hope I don't need heat." I'm like, yeah, I hope you don't either. And that guy got me off of YouTube. So YouTube's a wonderful place.
I don't think I've ever got I work for people, but I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me off of YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I get them all the time. I get them all the time. It's been a blessing for me. And actually, Greg Fox, you know, he when he first started putting videos up, I told him, I said, you need to put the name of your town, you know, or whatever town you're close to, you know, just throw that in the video, and that way, you know, somebody's searching for heating and air in whatever city, your
Yeah.
video will pop up on Google on the first page, and that's a trick, you know, that people don't understand.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of the SEO.
Yeah, it's a trick
Yeah.
to get you on the first page. So
Joe Shear just asked in the chat, Ralph, why you didn't use why he says, Ralph, why did you use a slab coil?
oh, because why did I use a slab coil? I couldn't tell you.
Because reasons.
Yeah, there was a reason behind it. I just couldn't tell you why I did it now. But whatever I did, the guy was like, the system is quieter now, and we've got more airflow. Because he said before he could stand under the vents and not really feel hardly anything. And the coil wasn't dirty. I looked at it. He said it was been like that since it was brand new. So I don't know what I did differently to give him more airflow, but he swears that there's a lot more air coming out of the vents than there used to be. So I don't know.
Well, the transition you made, what was that for?
What do you mean? Oh, because I had to go from the furnace to the slab coil, and then I had to go from the slab coil to the old plenum. I tell you why I used a slab coil. If Joe, you know, because when they set that furnace, they set the cinder block right on the edge of the furnace. You know, right at the edge of the front of the furnace. So a drain pan, if I would have put a new coil there, I couldn't have got the drain pan back far enough, you know, without kind of the furnace kind of, you know, bowing. So I just left it like it was and decided just to do a slab coil. You know, if you're doing it all brand new, you don't have to, you know, rebuild the whole wheel. And I did. I had to rebuild everything. Then it's different. But sometimes when you're doing change outs like this, you just do what you think is right. So, you know, that's why I did the slab coil, because of the way the drain pan was going to fit back in place.
Right. Yeah, that's what he just said. He said, were you trying to keep it inside the old pan?
I was, but and, you know, I cut that part of the video because in the beginning I was like, I'm just going to keep that drain pan because the drain pan is old, but it still held water, you know. So I knew there wasn't nothing wrong with the drain pan. So what? So it's old. Who cares? As long as it still works, I don't care. So I was going to use it, but the slab coil was 34 inches wide, and the old drain pan was only 30. So when I looked at it the first time, you know, I didn't get my tape measure out and measure the drain pan. I just was like, well, it'll work, but it turned out not to work. So I had to go get another drain pan and replace it. So, but that was what it was. I was going to use the old drain pan too.
Right.
So, but for 10 years, the drain pan that was under that coil didn't fit that coil. So they were lucky nothing ever happened. So
yeah, we've got one, which you're not in our little group text, but you ever heard of a space pack?
Yeah, high velocity.
It's an old space pack in an attic, and it was all rotted out, and somebody had took the lid off of a tote and put it under the unit and made a makeshift drain pan, drilled a hole through the side of the lid.
Hey man, that's pretty ingenious. Yeah, homeowner did that.
Yeah, homeowner did it, and then it was junk. The coil was finally just rotted out, and
yeah,
we're changing that out here in about 2 weeks.
I had one that it's in a condo, and the way they installed this thing, the fan motor went out on it. Well, you couldn't get the fan motor out because I forget how the fan motor comes out of it, but I couldn't get to it through the access panel. It was too close to the wall or something like that. So I actually went up top and I cut the top of it out, and I had to get the motor out from the top to the hole that I cut, and then of course I patched it all back. But yeah, it was a pain. I thought that whole unit was going to have to come out to get that motor out.
Hang on, I'm gonna mute myself here for a second.
I'll be right back in a second. Eric's going to have to tell everybody a joke.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think we'll lose a lot of viewers if I do that.
Hold on.
We'll lose Joe because he apparently is the only viewer. I don't know that. I'm just looking at the chat, so that could be totally off.
Yeah, hopefully Joe will be able to hop in here in a minute.
He's just teasing us.
Yeah.
Being vague about it. I will if you're still on in a little bit. Well, what's a little bit, Joe? What's a little bit?
If it's like 2 hours, then I don't know if I'll be awake in 2 hours or not. But
I'm wondering about that too. Should I open another beer or should I just finish the one I got?
Finish the one you got.
Wow. Finish the one I got and stop is what I need to say.
Oh.
I got this beer. It's got my two favorite things. It's beer and it's coffee at the same time.
What?
Yeah. Rogue Cold Brew IPA. So it's an IPA beer with cold brew coffee in it.
Oh, man. Does it taste all right?
Do you like IPAs?
Well, I don't like coffee, so.
IPA beers.
Oh, no. I don't know. I've never had it.
Hoppy and somewhat bitter, depending on.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not some of the beers you got to have a taste for.
I'm not a big IPA fan. Anymore I pretty much go for some sort of stout if I'm gonna get some sort of beer. So, but being that it's starting to get summertime, that's a little bit heavy. So now I'm back on the whiskey and cokes or bourbons and cokes, and so
yeah, stouts are a little heavy to drink at work.
Yeah, I bet.
like a strongbow. Strongbow and ice at work.
The guy smoking pot at the top of the elevator shaft while he's putting in the fresh air vents.
I got a better one than that. I used to, when I first got in this trade, I was doing supermarket refrigeration, and we were retrofitting stores. And you'd go around an active store with a high lift, and these two electricians that we called Dumb and Dumber were like the biggest potheads ever. And they take a high lift to the top of the ceiling, and we had seen them do this on other jobs. Pop a ceiling tile, and just lean over to the side where nobody can see what you're doing, and take a couple hits. Well, they did this in a store that had a plenum return ceiling. So the whole store was just starting to smell. And the store manager was walking around. He couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. He's like going in, like trying to figure out where it's coming from. He never figured it out. It was hilarious.
That's crazy.
But I just remember that those guys were hilarious. I mean, the one guy's on a 6-foot ladder. He's wiring up a neon transformer for a sign. And one of the mechanics that I was working with says, "Hey, why is such and such not on?" And the other guy's like, "I don't know." And he starts hitting breakers in this panel. All of a sudden, the other guy screams and falls off the ladder. Like, you guys really, really need to lay off that stuff at work.
Wow. I can't see the chat for some reason. Can't see it.
Do you have the YouTube window open?
I did have it open, but I didn't see it there either.
Should have been on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
You have the YouTube window open.
Well, I just closed it out. I'm going to open it back up.
Did you pop the chat out?
Hold on a second.
I was doing work on a house back Oh, it was been months ago, but we crawled underneath this house to redo some duct work, and the guy said, "Hey," he said, "Be careful when you're under there." He said, "There's probably some beer bottles and beer cans," because he said about 15 years ago, me and my cousin did all that
Underneath this
duct
house.
work under there ourselves. I've never seen so many beer cans and bottles under a house. It was unbelievable. I bet they went through 3 cases of booze putting that ductwork in under that.
How'd the ductwork look?
Actually, not bad. And they even took the time, like they did the old school white mastic, like the paper tape that you then painted over.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, they took their time. It wasn't done too bad. So,
hey man, some guys just function like that.
oh yeah,
They're great at it.
so I don't do none of that stuff anymore. But there was a point in time whenever I thought I could do anything. Whenever I was smoking dope too, but I found out pretty quick that I wasn't as good at it as what I thought I was.
Yeah, but some of those guys, they can do, be perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know what's funny is when I was doing commercial work, doing new construction, you could always, of course, I was working with my dad. My dad, he's been a recovering alcoholic for years now, but he would always point out the guys right away. He's like, "You see that carpenter over there?" He's like, "I'd bet money he's an alcoholic," because he's like, every morning he comes in, he's pissed off till his first break, and then after that, he's fine.
He's fine.
So put that Bailey's in your coffee, man.
Hey, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. So now, Chris, do you have a video on making drain pans?
Do what now?
Do you have a video on making drain pans on your channel?
No, I don't. That's not something I've done.
Oh, you don't make them?
Oh, I make them, but I haven't done any videos of it. The last 2 that I made, I leaded them.
Oh yeah. Well, that drain pan that I used on that job, with that evaporator coil, they were all welded up, and had a steel nipple on them.
Right.
So I mean, and I'm glad because the platform that drain pan was on, it stuck off the edge about 4 inches on the left hand side, which is fine because I actually set that slab coil up on heat pump risers, so I didn't have to hang it. And, and then so I mean that drain pan must have been 20 gauge metal. It was heavy duty, so I wasn't worried about that sucker bending.
Right. Yeah, 20 gauge, especially if you're going to weld in a pipe nipple or something like that. 20 gauge is going to be about your best bet. 22, you can do it.
Yeah,
but you're going to fight it a little bit.
Yeah, if it, because I was like, man, that drain pan's going to hang over the edge, but then I was like, man, there's no way it's going to ever bend. It's too sturdy. So, but it worked out pretty.
Yeah, and the trick too is, when you lay it all out in the flat and you pre-drill your hole, do your cross breaks, to where everything. Because I've seen guys make them where they cross break corner to corner, but on one side, on the long sides where your drain's at.
Right.
They don't cross break to the drain.
Yeah, everything goes to the center.
Yeah.
So, which is all right if it's hanging in the middle of the air.
Right. Yeah. I got called out to a local dealership last year. A company had put in a new rooftop unit, and they were having trouble with it. It was leaking down through the return.
Right.
Which they had a drain problem up on the RTU. So what they done, and it was a drop ceiling plenum return. The company, instead of fixing the problem, and the problem was that the roof curb was not level.
Wow.
They put a drain pan under it. They did it was 20 gauge. This thing was 6 foot by 6 foot and 4-inch sides. So if you can imagine 6 by 6 with 4-inch sides,
with all that
and the
water?
drain clogged up.
Oh my God.
and it came through the ceiling when it gave way.
Oh my God! What did
I can imagine. Holy crap!
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of water. Because you imagine
Yes, it is.
if a drain pan, a regular 32 by 32, sitting under a furnace, holds 10 gallons of water. Well, not that much, but almost. Just imagine that's 80 pounds right there.
Yeah.
So you're 6 by 6 and 4 inches high.
Yep, 6 by 6 with a 4-inch lip.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I took one look at it and I said, well, until you get, I mean, we're going to have to get a crane and we're going to have to get iron workers out here and we're going to have to cut the curb loose and shim the crib up or the curb up. And, it's going to be a major deal to get this thing fixed correctly.
Right.
So they ended up filing a lawsuit with the company who did it. And then the company who did it came back to fix it.
Really? Well,
and then I guess their insurance paid for all the damages and everything. So
man, they must have had a hell of an insurance policy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I mean, normally all of us have 2 million, and some of us have a $1 million umbrella on top of that.
That's 750 pounds of water.
Is it really?
Did you do the math?
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, they had it hanging by what it looked like to me was, just strip, and they use those caddy clips on the bar joists that you hammer the caddy clip on, then you run your strip metal through it and bend it back over.
They weren't even.
And then they put screws through it.
Well, hey, one of the first package units I ever helped install, we had one. There was one screw left in the return, and the crane. The guy was like, "Did you get all the screws out?" I said, "Yeah, everything's out," but I missed one because it was covered up with a bunch of dirt. And there was one screw holding that package unit in place, and the crane kept trying to lift that package unit up, and it was having all kind of trouble trying to get it out of there. And
yeah,
he was like,
I've seen that before too.
One screw.
Yeah,
you wouldn't.
I see. Yeah, I believe it. I've seen it too, man. I watched the crane boom just bend like
over one stupid screw.
And the guy was like, I had the guy on the phone. He's like, well, what are we lifting here? I'm like, oh, it's a little 2-ton condenser. He's like, I got 2,500 pounds of pressure on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right,
cable will surprise you. I broke stuff loose, that I couldn't get the screw out, and I just broke it loose. But then a crane can't lift the thing off the curb.
I've even had we're pulling them off where they'd put like butyl tape down, and even the butyl tape sometimes, if it's cured up real good and it had a good clean surface, all of a sudden it's like it finally gives way, and so yeah, it's crazy how that stuff, if it sits for a long time and it gets good adhesion.
Yeah.
So even big commercial duct work that you've got to, like, say there's a change and you got to take it apart where they've used butyl tape on like Ward Mate or something like that. Right. That can be a fight within itself.
Oh yeah, trying to uninstall that stuff is a pain. I do know that. When it's been up there for 20 years.
And we did a hospital, and it was all high static system. And I was an apprentice then, and they had me go through in all the joints. They bought an airless paint sprayer in 5-gallon buckets of duct sealer. And I had to go back to the first and second floor. They'd already been pressure tested, but hadn't passed. They were only wanting 1% loss.
Wow.
And
sounds like they needed some
3/8 of an inch thick every joint.
Oh, really?
Yep. 3/8. That was what they told me. And now, if you've ever sprayed duct sealer through a sprayer, that stuff's a lot thinner than what it is when you for the paint on.
Right.
So you would have to like go through, spray it, go down to the end of the duct line, come back and put another coat on it, because if you tried to spray it that thick, it would just run and fall off of it.
So it's kind of like they do the interstates. They start with the beginning, they work their way up. When they finish, they start back down.
Yeah.
Like you did.
I did that for 2 months straight.
Wow.
On a hospital expansion, each 3 floors, every floor, and it was I can't even remember how many 5-gallon buckets of duct sealer I went through.
I bet that was a messy job.
Oh, it was horrible. And then they made me climb into the ductwork on the main trunk line because they weren't using the plastic like they should have, and they got too much dust in the duct, so I had to go up in all the smoke damper hatches with WD-40 and rags and wipe everything down that someone could see from sticking their head up in there on a ladder and get all the dust out of it.
Oh my God.
Hospitals are the worst.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it was that. Like I said, that was a tough one. Being an apprentice on that one. So, and then the ducts that duct sealer, it sets up so fast. So like, I would start at 7 a.m.
Right.
And at 1:30 was when I had to have I'd set an alarm on my phone because that we quit at 3:30. I had to have 2 hours to clean the airless paint sprayer because that's how long it would take to get it clean. So the next day it would function.
Oh wow. Wow.
So
see, I've never seen that kind of setup.
So yeah, because see, like on all the low pressure duct, we had the duct sealer in like caulking tubes. So you would put your duct together, and then you'd reach through it on the rectangle duct, square duct, and then you'd run a bead of that down your Pittsburgh seams on the inside. And then when you put it together, you had to paint the outside of it.
Wow.
Why didn't they just use Roslock on the straight duct?
Roslock?
Yeah, you don't have to seal it. You know how Pittsburgh seam is like your metal comes over, goes in, and then comes over like this? Well, Roslock is like, somebody tried to explain it to me. It's like that. Like nothing leaks out of it.
You talking about like snap lock?
No, not snap lock. Snap lock is just like that.
Almost like a pipe joint then, except it's...
There's a special machine that puts it into the duct, and like, you know how you could take a Pittsburgh seam apart in the field with a screwdriver and a hammer?
Yeah. I used to
you cannot get Roslock apart.
Huh.
So once it's together, you can't do it, huh?
You can't. It only works on straight duct. You can't do it on fit because of how it is. But yeah, I wonder why they didn't use that.
I don't know. I do know that it wasn't until we got to a certain size that they would even allow us to use button lock or snap lock. So a lot of the larger low pressure runs all had to be a Pittsburgh. They actually bought one of the Trump Pittsburgh rollers that you just stick it on the side and hit the button and it rolls down the side and bends over. It'll bend up to a 20 gauge Pittsburgh over.
Wow, because it was so much ductwork.
Yep. Because I mean, even using electric hammers or air hammers, it was too. I mean, it's one pass. Just hook it, pull the trigger, and go, and it rolls it over.
Right. Really.
So you had to. Yeah, all you had to do was start the first 3 inches. So you beat the first 3 inches over with a hammer on each end, and then hook it up and go. So like we'd have 3 guys. You had one guy who would separate out the sizes and put them together in pairs. The next guy would put them together and beat the 3 inches, and the guy at the other end, he would go through with the Trump machine and roll it over and then move on to the, it was just, we had like a little assembly line going.
Right. Yeah. So, that's one job I'd never want to do again. Hanging ductwork.
As long as it's duct mate.
Well, yeah, well.
on big jobs, it's not too bad on commercial stuff. Cause I mean, the longest part of it's laying your hangers out. Cause once your hangers are up.
Once your hangers are up, then you're good. But, just, I don't know. I like to be in the truck moving.
Yeah, I'd rather be in the truck too.
Yeah. Get in the truck.
To hold a steering wheel.
Yep. Get in the truck and move to the next job. Fix what you got to fix. And then it's just, being at one place for all day long or whatever.
Yeah, that's like work.
Yeah, it
I
is.
like it.
I will say I will say, after doing that duck sock up there at the church,
Right.
that stuff's pretty slick.
Oh no, it definitely is slick. That's some nice stuff.
So whenever you call, like my supplier, whenever I drew all that out and sent it to them, they send you a bid sheet back.
Right.
And they give you cost of material, and then they give you estimated labor of install. And the kit includes everything: hanger cables,
Right.
so the intermediates, mainline, the whole 9 yards, and then it tells you how much to figure in for labor.
Right.
And my dad has done quite a few of them, and I had never done one. And my dad said, just add about 4 hours to that for your first one. And he said, after you do your first one, he said, it's actually pretty accurate as long as you take into consideration the obstacles you'll have to work around.
Right.
So he said, now their estimated time of install is considering that there's nothing that has to be moved. You've got lifts and everything, and it's just,
go through there and pop the hanger.
Yeah. Out. So, but yeah, it's that's definitely the way to go in like gymnasiums and like the dry fall ceiling type situations. That's the ticket.
There's a little sandwich shop here in town that's been in business. It's the oldest food place in the county I live in. And they just renovated the place a couple of years ago. And the company that did it, they did a duck sock. And the place is not that big, but they did a duck sock in the front of the place and did mini splits in back. And it really looks good in there. Yeah. But gyms and stuff like that, big open places, it's great.
It was kind of weird because mine come in 3 sections because it was like 98 feet long total.
Right.
And they had the mesh dampers in there, and that's all that mesh is for, is slow the air down towards the end so that it doesn't flutter.
Right.
And they tell you it comes preset, but then again, there's another note on there that says, you can unzip it and adjust the little slide on the cable or the nylon cord in there to adjust that to open and close. So that way, if you do get a little bit of flutter, or you need to adjust the static more towards the end of it to get it to inflate correctly. But it just blows my mind how somebody figured all that out just using nylon mesh and fabric,
Hey, so somebody did it. And the first guy that saw it was probably like, man, what the hell is this thing?
Yeah.
That'll never work. Because we're all used to conventional ways of thinking. And nobody wants to think outside the box. And that was, it's pretty amazing that we get stuck in this inside box way of thinking, and when somebody comes along and says, "Oh, you can't do that," and you're like, "Well, why? Why can't I?"
Yeah, I tell you what, even for running straight duck, the gripple on commercial, I love hanging duck with gripple. The cable with the clicks. Yeah. Even the ones that you screw the corners onto the outside, the bottom corner of the duck. I mean, it's so easy. You just go through and set all your height.
Yeah.
Put it up, run two.
Anything to make the job faster. That was, and what you were talking about before when, back a long time ago, we did some military barracks, and they took a Bobcat and they totally did, got rid of everything on each floor. And we just had the foundation, and the ceiling is all concrete. And that was the worst part, going through there and laying out the line, where you had to turn and stuff. And then we used a pole, we used a Hilti gun. No, actually we didn't use a Hilti gun. We screwed, or we drilled a hole for every strap, and we used the hammer and anchors for everything.
Right.
And then once we got our strap done, then we had our little pole with the height, you know what I mean? And then we cut our little notch in it, and then we bent it up. And so, but once we got past that, it was nothing hanging.
Right. That hospital job I was telling you about, we used the Sammys for 3/8 rod on that because it had the concrete. Each floor was concrete and had the roof decking underneath the metal corrugated decking. We'd go through and I forget who it was. One of the guys welded up a big rod that had a STS on the end of it, so you could change your masonry bits and just shoot a laser up and stand on the ground and hammer, just Sammys and everything from the ground.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty slick. He was one of the fitters. Is the one that welded it up in the shop and sent it out there. And of course, we stole it from him.
Well, yeah, that's a great idea.
So
anything to get off that ladder. I mean, I hated that job because you're hammering all. I mean, you're using a hammer drill all day, and it's a big old hammer drill, holding it above your head all day, and then pounding them little anchors in the ceiling. I don't know how many times I've busted my knuckles on that place.
I've even taken EMT and flattened the end and made it, and take just a piece of tape,
right,
and take caddy clips and slam them against a bar joist with the strap already on them.
Right. Well, we didn't have any luxuries of bar joists. We had just nothing but concrete ceilings. It was a bitch.
Yeah.
But after I left that job, of course, and went to some other, regular commercial buildings, we'd use whatever we had to hang the ducks. So, but yeah, it was a luxury to have regular roof trusses.
Yeah. That company that I finished my apprenticeship with and stuff, man, they had so many projects going on that one year. They had a contract with Hilti. So all of our strut was Hilti strut, all of our hardware was Hilti hardware, and they had a trailer on each job site, and Hilti would come around twice a week and restock everything.
Yeah. Hey, that's probably saved a lot of time and money.
Yeah, they had all the Hilti tools had GPS tracking on them.
Oh, wow. So did they lease the tools from them?
Yeah, they leased all the tools from them. So chatter guns, drills, sawzalls, everything. It was the older. That's been a few years back now, but it was the 14.4 volt Hilti tools.
So everything had a GPS on it.
Yep. It had a tag on it, and it would say the company name, and then under it had a serial number, and it said this tool can be tracked by GPS.
Wow.
And supposedly the way it works is that the batteries and stuff would have to be plugged into a charger.
Right.
And once they were plugged in to a charger, that's whenever they could ping it to figure out where the stuff was at.
Well, yeah, but I wonder how many of the, kind of one of these has GPS on it.
Yeah.
And the rest of them
I think I remember one of the tool guys from the shop saying that it cost quite a bit of money for them to locate it, more than what it was probably worth,
right,
for your regular drill or chatter gun,
right,
to find it.
But they caught the thief.
Yeah, exactly.
So it would have been worth every penny of it. I don't remember which group it was in. I think it was the owners group, the HVAC owners group on Facebook, where the owner of the company, what they did was they let the daughter start selling Cokes, and she had a little cash box, and then you reach in the cooler or whatever, or the refrigerator, and get the Cokes out of there. And then the girl would do something. She was trying to save some money for something. I don't remember what it was. But he said that some of the money started coming up missing, which meant one of the guys was stealing the money. One of his workers was stealing money from a 7-year-old kid.
Right.
So they put a $5 bill in there just to see, and it came up gone. And then they did it again, and it come up gone. So then the guy narrowed it down to who he thought it was. So he put his own $5 bill in there, and he wrote the serial number down. He wrote the serial number down, and he tracked their truck by GPS to a convenience store. He went to the convenience store and asked to look at the $5 bills, and his $5 bill was there. Then he looked at the security footage and found out which guy it was that actually stole the money. So then he was like, "You're out of here. You're going to steal from my daughter? You're gone."
I was working in a plant one time years ago, and we had somebody that would always steal our, because we had a refrigerator there, and we'd put our lunches in it. Somebody was always stealing lunches. And the girl that I was with at the time, her mom made X-Lax brownies. We figured out who was stealing our lunches.
Yeah, that's horrible. To steal somebody's lunch out of the refrigerator. Horrible. But I thought that was pretty good. That, I mean, he went through a lot of work to try to find out who stole that money. But still, you know, hey, it's worth it. Didn't take him that much time to do it.
Ralph, you've pretty much always been a one-man show, right?
Yeah, ever since I can remember.
See, I'm starting to get some more people, and I've tossed the idea around of putting a GPS on my trucks.
It's a great idea.
Hell yeah, it is.
It's a great idea, and I'll tell you why. I used to work for myself before, and I was doing. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the. I'm trying to think of the damn name of those filters. It was a charcoal filter, a UV light, and a regular 2-inch pleated filter. What the hell? Puretech. Puretech was the name of those filters, and they hired subs to put the filters in for them when they sold them. They sold those things for like $3,500, and so I was doing a lot of them. So I hired a guy, and you know, he was like, "Oh yeah, I can work with sheet metal. I can work with sheet metal." And you know, I'm a field guy. I'm not a shop guy. I'm a field guy. And you know, so I go out there and I don't measure anything up. You know, I just wait till I get to the job and then just do what I got to do to get the thing in. And he told me, "Oh yeah, I can do all that. I can do all that." Well, didn't take very long to figure out he didn't know how to do it. So I got rid of him. But well, he had plans to a damn house in the truck when he dropped it off. So yeah, so you need to put a GPS on the truck.
Well, and that was one of the things. Like, I'd hired a guy, and he was up front with me, and you know, he's like, "Listen," he's like, "I was doing." Hang on. But he told me, he's like, "I was doing side work for a while," and he said, "I've got some units that are still under warranty." And he said, how do you feel about that?" And I said, "Well, if you've got to do warranty work on stuff you put into people," I said, "I want you to honor that, because I mean, that's your word."
Right.
But I said, as far as new work, I was like, you know, if you want to refer them to us, and I'll cut you a spiff on it, or, you know, if I find out you're doing side work, you're just gone. I was like,
right.
You know.
Now here's how I feel about the side work thing, because I used to work for a couple different companies, and they all had different policies on side work. One company was you couldn't do any side work at all, none, and you know, we all do heat in there. We all know how to do it. If we have a buddy of ours that needs it, then I feel like, hey, if they're not gonna call that company, you know what I mean?
Right.
Then you were never going to get the business. But now, if you're using their truck and their
right, that's where the problem is.
That's the problem. It's not doing the side work; it's stealing from the company without, you know. It's one thing to say, "Damn, I'm out of straps." You know, I'll just take some off the truck and then I'll replace them. That's one thing, but just to take the straps and not replace them, or a contactor or a motor or something like that. But once you hire guys, you're going to have to start doing inventory.
Yeah.
Especially with refrigerant.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. And that's why I kind of thought the GPS might come in handy, because if I'm suspicious, then I can see if my truck's someplace it's not supposed to be after hours.
You can't trace the parts though. So
right.
So what you're going to have to do with your refrigerant is, and I don't know, Eric can probably, I don't know what they do with their company, but they had a log whenever you bought refrigerant or whenever you got refrigerant, because they buy it by the pallet or whatever, but now it's too expensive to buy it by the pallet. But but you'll have to probably buy the refrigerant, bring it to the office and number it or whatever, put some sort of mark on it. So that drum comes back to you. You know what I mean? Before you give them another drum.
Right.
And you make sure they weigh it. But then guys know all kind of tricks. This is why you got to mark the drum, because like they'll charge a customer for 3 pounds but only use 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they'll have a full drum of refrigerant, and you'll be no wiser, and they'll have a whole drum of refrigerant. So that's why you need to do something with the drum to say this drum needs to come back before you get another one.
It's a shame they can't figure something out that's kind of like they do at some of these bars, where it automatically it tells how many shots comes out of the bottle, and it stops it.
The casinos, the strip clubs are like that. They just hit the button and that's how much comes out. But the casinos have they have a big room. Then the stuff comes out of a bag, and they just dispense it just like Coke. So it's a shame they don't have something like that, where the damn refrigerant's attached to the truck and it can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
A long charging hose.
Yeah, a long charging hose. There you go.
I work on some buildings that are up in the teens and stories. I don't think I'm going to be gassing up any of them units.
No, you need a 250-foot charging hose. Drop it over the edge.
Yeah, right?
Hell, in some cases, it'd be cheaper on labor-wise than refrigerant, to walk up and down. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, how does your company handle getting refrigerant, Eric?
Well, right now they're just doing the system of inventory, like you said, where like guys could end up with a jug of refrigerant. They have to sell. If you're not selling 30 pounds out of the drum, you're gonna get questioned, like, why didn't you sell 30 pounds of refrigerant out of your drum?
Right. And then you have to weigh it back as it comes in.
But I've had a lot of 410A drums that are only 22 or 20 or 23 to 24 pounds. So
I had one the other day.
I see them all the time, man. Because I take in with those LG units, they leak so much gas. I'll put four drums in a unit, and it's just 23, 10, 20, 24, 2. It's just they don't ever come out 25.
Right.
Not even close. You're always short a pound.
Right. Yeah, I mean you can, but now see if that drum gets weighed at the office, and it's supposed to weigh a 410 drum weighs 7 pounds. So, so a 25 pounder should weigh around 32 pounds. So, so if they weighed it there at the office, then you can explain. Well, then they could see. Well, damn, the drum only weighs 30 pounds. So they know for sure you're not going to get, all 25 pounds out of it.
Yeah.
So
you never would anyway, but you should get close.
Well, yeah, you never would get any of that. The only way you'd have to pull the vacuum on the unit.
Use the recovery machine to push it out.
Yep. So, but yeah, Greg, you're gonna have to get your you're gonna have to do all kind of inventory if you don't trust the guy, and it sucks to have somebody working for you that you're gonna have to, keep an eye on all the time.
Well, I did work for a company though that did that with the numbered cylinders, and you have to turn it in to get another one.
Yeah.
There's ways around all that stuff too. I mean, if guys really want to do it, at the end of
Oh,
the day,
yeah.
at the end of the day, you're going to kind of have to have some trust in the guys. But I have found that GPS is good because a lot of the guys I've seen that I've talked to at companies, they know there's no tracker on their truck, and that's how they're going around doing side work as if they were that company.
Yeah.
They're going to take your truck, they're going to drive it to a side job. They're going to use your parts. They're going to bill it out, and they're not going to replace none of that stuff.
That's right. And the only way that they'll ever get caught is if you happen to be two ways. You happen to be driving down the street and see your truck at somebody's house, or the neighbor calls the office or calls you and says, "Hey, your guy's down the street, and my unit's broke. You know, can you get him to come to my house after he leaves there?" And you're like, "What? What are you even talking about?"
Yeah, both of which are pretty unlikely too, because at that second case, I mean, yeah, maybe somebody will say that, but somebody might just see the truck and call and be like, "Yeah, can you get a guy over to my house?" And you'll be like, "Oh, sure."
Yeah.
And then you'll call your guy, and he'll be like, "Oh, sure."
Yeah, I'll go. But yeah, GPS, and they don't have to be anything extraordinary, as far as all these different programs out there where you can. Hell, I got my old car that I had. I put a GPS in it, and I traded that car in on my new truck, and hell, I could punch it up on my phone right now and tell you where it's at. I keep wanting to go by their house and say, "Hey, this thing's got GPS on it, and here's the information if you want to update it." So
that's funny. That reminds me, a company. They had a Ford Ranger that they had for a runaround truck, to pick up parts with.
Right.
And it had a key to it, and they sold it. Right. And I knew it was that truck because they went and put Mustang rims on it, like the alloys with the tires, because it was a Ford Ranger and it fit. And I saw it in the parking lot one day, and I had half a mind to just get in it and turn it around in the parking spot.
Oh,
so when they come back, they're backed into the spot, and they're like, "I never back in."
Yeah, man, this truck is haunted. Yeah, I wish I still had a key to that thing because like I said, I've got GPS on it, so I know where they work, and they drive a long way to get to work too. They work all the way over there, and they live over there.
GPS stalking these poor people.
Hey,
you should leave notes on their car wherever it is. Like, wait till they go out to eat one night, leave like a creepy note on it.
Yeah,
no matter where their car is.
I'm watching you.
I know.
How much did that cost you?
It was like $150 for that one, and then it was
that's not bad.
No, but it I forget. Yeah, it really wasn't that bad. I don't get a subscription every month, so I think it was like $150 altogether. But there's ways to track them. You can get that little key tag, key. I don't know it, but you can just put it anywhere in the vehicle. You know what I mean? It'll track as long as the battery's. It's got like one of those round batteries in it. As long as the battery's good, you can track it.
Yeah, man, we've been going through so many changes this last month because we went to flat rate pricing.
Right.
And now we've got this dispatching software, but it was like I'm trying to take more of the load off of me because it's like I'm wearing so many hats right now that it's really starting to catch up with me.
Right. No, it does. I mean, because just me being by myself, it's tough to keep up with everything.
Well, just the simple fact of when I'm out and I'm running service calls or an install, my phone's ringing because that's my business phone. I didn't like it for the fact that part of me is like, you got to answer that, but then the other part of me is like, I need to be focusing on what I'm doing so this customer feels like they're being taken care of properly.
Right. Well, a lot of times I don't answer my phone. I've actually stopped answering my phone and I let it go to voicemail. And then on my voicemail it says, for quick response, please text me. And then,
Yeah.
so I get a lot of people texting me, and I can just answer it right then. But I feel like if I'm talking to a customer or something, it would be rude to answer the phone. So
Right.
Yeah.
I just stopped answering the phone, and if I'm up in the attic or something, you know, I'm sweating. I don't want to talk to somebody. It's
Right.
let them text me. And it works. It works for me.
Yeah. Do you do time and material, or do you do any flat rate?
It depends. I don't work out of a flat rate book, but I've kind of made up my own flat rate.
Right.
That works for me. Like a motor or something like that. It's a um, I've got a price multiplier in the truck that I
Right.
use, and then but you do the same job over and over again. You really don't have to use it. You say, well, I know that motor is going to be, let's say, $79, so or whatever, and then
Right.
um, just go from there. So no, I just like, why? I don't need to use a flat rate. I can, because I don't know how much did you pay for your flat rate?
All together with 2 tablets and a hard book and everything, it was like, and setting it all up, it was good. It was like right at 4,500.
Yeah, see, I was like, man, I'm too cheap to do that. But when you work, when you work on your own, you don't need to do it.
My boss
Well,
made one and he just printed it up and stapled it together and you put it in with your paperwork with your invoices so you can bill out jobs.
Yeah,
We don't have any of that, man. 4,500. Wow, that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It really is.
And we have a multiplier for overtime on it. That's pretty much it. We have a normal hours pricing and after hours pricing.
Right.
well, the reason why I went to it, and I was on the fence about it for about right at 8 months. I couldn't decide because I'd looked at different ones and um, just talking to customers and stuff like that. And I went with the new flat rate that does like the menu pricing with different tiers,
Right.
you know. Um,
Yeah.
and
Well, now you just have just that other guy working with you
right at the moment, but
at the moment.
if things keep going like they are, I'll probably have to have another tech here real
Right,
soon.
right. Because that menu pricing deal, that's designed to sell maintenances and stuff like that, which is fine. But then, I've never figured out how to actually um, do a maintenance program to where everything's billed um, at the right times. Like, I could never keep it straight if they paid in the fall, if they paid in the spring, or, if they were prepaid or whatever. So I tried using a notebook to keep it straight. I tried keeping their contracts in a notebook, and I never could keep it straight.
Well, that's why I went ahead and went with the dispatching software because it keeps track of all that.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
like, it's like say we sell a maintenance on a job, we go ahead and we tell them like, hey, we're going to put you in the schedule 6 months from now, but
right,
that's more of a reference. It'll be sometime during that time period, and then
right,
and then it says that invoice and all that's in there already, so it says whether they've paid or haven't, or it'll say what's due,
right,
that sort of thing. What I liked about, I sat down with my accountant and we looked at what I'd done last year.
right,
We looked at where we were headed this year, and she told me, she said, your profit margin's not high enough.
right.
She said, you're losing money. And she said, the rate you're going, she said, 2 years, you'll be done.
Right.
So she said, you're going to you're going to have to increase your labor.
Right.
She said, not by much, but she said, I was in like that 3%. And she said,
Oh, wow. Yeah. You got to be around 10 to 7.
yeah.
Seven
And
to
she
10.
said, you need to be between 5 and 12,
Right. Right.
somewhere in there. And she said, and she actually suggested it. She said, I don't know anybody around here that does flat rate, but she said it's something to consider.
Right.
So the new guy I hired was working for a company from down south of me, and they were using the new flat rate. And he was telling me, he's like, man, he's like, he's like me. He's like, I don't like to be a salesman, but he said, these people, when you give them these options, he said, they naturally will upsell themselves.
Yeah, it is true. And you know what? If I was, I just, you know what? Honestly, I just like doing work. I don't want to manage a bunch of people. I just want to go do work. I want to, when I'm done at the end of the job or quoting them, I want to shake their hand and say, it's going to be $5,000. Okay, do it. You know, and so far I've been fortunate enough that I haven't had anybody screw me.
Right.
I had one lady one time that I thought was going to really, really screw me, and then. But it turned out she was like, look, we're really, really sorry. I lost my job. And, you know, this was 6 months later. And I sent her a text one day and said, hey, you know, I never received payment for the job. And then that's when she said, oh, you know, I lost my job, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't get all upset about it. I'm going to take you to court. You know, you better have my money. I didn't do all that. I was like, that's fine. Just, you know, please, whenever you can, you know, send me a payment, something, show good faith.
Right.
I get a check. I get a letter, you know, a card in the mail one day with a check in it. It said, look, I just got my job back. Here's part of it, and we'll send you the other part later, you know, whatever. And they did. And you know, that lady called me back. I didn't hold any hard feelings towards her. I went and did her service call. She paid me, and that was the only time that I ever got, you know, almost shafted, but I didn't, because I just kept my cool and just like, you know, hey. But that doesn't work for everybody. I know it doesn't.
No, I'm fortunate enough. I only have one person right now. Everybody else so far, which I've got a couple out there right now, but I'm confident they're going to get taken care of. I've got one lady that owes me, I think, like just shy of $800.
Right.
And I'll probably never see it. I know I'll probably never see it.
Right.
You know, and I'll see that she's on Facebook or something. I'll shoot her a message and be like, hey, you know, because I knew her husband got hurt at work.
Right.
Lost his foot, you know, stuff like that. And I'll just say, hey, you know, just want to check in on you, make sure your system's still working good. And, you know, just wanted to let you, just a friendly reminder, you know, if you could give me something, it'd be great.
Right.
You know, but now my wife, on the other hand.
Oh yeah, women are a lot different than men. I tell you that. There's some guys out there that you owe money, they're going after your ass. But there's most women, they will not. They don't do it. They will not. You owe me that money. You know.
Yeah, my wife I've started to give her the role, since we've got the dispatching software, of handling the invoicing and that part of it.
The collection.
And that was one of the first things she said. Is she said, well, if I'm doing this, she said, I'm going after that lady that owes you that money. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to tell you no, but I said, just be professional about it.
Yeah, you can't go, you know, being rude about trying to collect the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll tell you something else that I noticed. A contractor down south of me, he's kind of out of my area, but I thought it was kind of gimmicky, and I looked into it, and actually we're offering it now, but they do rent to own.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
And I reached out to the company and found out the details on it, and let's say it's just an AC swap.
Right.
Okay. And they can't get financing anywhere else.
Right.
So I send them this, and they take the cost. What they do is they look at the person. All they have to have is they have to own their home. They have to have some source of income. They have to prove it, and they have to have a bank account.
Right. The carrier dealer here has that similar financing like that, and yeah, it's pretty. It's. But go ahead with with what you were
Yeah.
saying.
Well, actually, I'm thinking that this company that I'm using is probably the same one he is, because they're tied in with Carrier pretty tight.
Yep.
Mycroft.
I forget the name of the place, but it's pretty high interest rate though.
Oh yeah.
Really
Because what they do, they told me. I said, "Now, how does this work?" I was like, "What happens if somebody just stops paying?"
Oh, they'll go get it.
Yeah, that's what they said. They found there's loopholes in the contract, because in Illinois, if you once that equipment is on their you can't take it.
It's the same way here.
But if it's under contract on a rent to own, it can be repossessed.
Just like your furniture or whatever.
Right.
Refrigerator.
So what they do, they asked me, I had to fill out this sheet, and it was like what I would charge as far as like refrigerant disposal, recovery fees, torch fees,
right,
and all this, and labor to uninstall systems based on the tonnage.
There's no way I would do that job. There's no way I would do that job. I couldn't do the job. I personally, I personally morally couldn't do it. I go in a house and see these little kids running around. I just couldn't do it.
And that's what I was getting at, was I'm on the fence about it, because it's like, I'm going to be going to these people's house, and I'm going to be like the great guy that got them this system and got them up and going, because they had no other options.
Be the son of a bitch that takes it out.
Yeah, and it's like, oh man, this is a conflict. I've got a moral conflict here on.
I wouldn't do it. There's guys out there that could, and I just couldn't do it. First of all, I wouldn't want to get shot. It's one day you see these repo guys get shot when they're repoing somebody's car, but damn, you take their air conditioner away from them.
Yeah,
shoot,
or their heat where I live.
Yeah.
Well, the air conditioning doesn't bother me so much, because they could put a window unit in. But if it's in the teens or single digits outside, and it's somebody that's got little kids. And
they probably legally, when it's that cold outside, I don't think.
I don't think. Yeah,
they could do it.
I don't know. And here's the deal. In all honesty, it's like they told me when I was talking to them about it. They're like, not that many people are going to use this. But not as many people are going to be able to use this as what you think. He said this is kind of a. It's a last step, but he said most of the time, he said we actually have a really, really low repossession, because he said we look at it close enough that these, if we honestly think they can't afford it, why are we going to give them the money for it?
Right.
So, but there again, sure enough, the one time I would have to do it, it would be one of those situations, and I would feel like the world's biggest asshole.
Right. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't. I would just, you know what? I don't offer financing, and the reason why is because I don't want to pay 11% out of my checking account to do a job. You know what I mean? Even if I mark it up that much, I just don't like the idea of the finance company being able to take 11% of the job.
See, mine, the most I've ever paid for financing a job was like 2.
Right. Well,
so
usually like Wells Fargo or whatever, you can't legally take somebody's heat. Heat is a necessity. I'm
pretty sure that's going to be by state, so I wouldn't speak in absolutes, but I would imagine.
Like that.
I would imagine some places it is, but I would never speak in absolutes, because you never know.
Well,
right.
Since HUD requires a house to have heat to be habitable,
right?
I would say that federal, it's almost a federal deal where, you can't just take somebody's heat out of their house, even though they
maybe not. But I find the best collection method is, you just go to their house, you meet them, and you take one of these with you right here, and you just throw this at them, and you say, if you don't have my money, the next one's going to be coming at you a lot faster.
We had one situation one time where we had done something, and the guy swore up and down that what we did caused the problem. Well, it turned out to be a refrigerant leak, and we didn't have anything to do with that circuit at all. It was leaking Freon. And so explained to the guy, and he was like, okay, go ahead and put it in. But he was still mad because we had done, I don't know, it changed a motor or something like that. You worked on it, now it doesn't work kind of situation. And so he's like, and I told him it's going to cost that much to put Freon. Okay, go ahead and do it. So I did it. The dude refused to pay. So I'm like, I'm not going to stand here and argue with the guy about paying for it. So I get in the truck and I leave and I call the office and they say, go back there and recover the refrigerant you put in the unit. Well, legally you can't, because once you leave the property, it's no longer your property. It belongs to them. And you had to take them to. So I went and I knocked on the door. No, actually he was in the backyard, and I walked up to the fence because it was right at the driveway. I said, hey man, I was told I had to take that refrigerant back since you don't want to pay. He said, my wife and kids are in the swimming pool and I don't want you back there. I was like, all right, fine. So I get back in the truck and I call him. I say, he refused to let me go back there. And, there wasn't a whole lot they could do.
You go back at night and shoot his condenser with a BB gun.
Yeah. Pumped the pellet gun up to 12 times. If you can't have it, we can't have it back. You can't have it either.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's what it's a fine line, but yeah, I wouldn't want to do that job, repoing somebody's stuff.
Yeah, I'm good on that one too.
So,
it goes along with the whole saying of don't play stupid games with stupid people at stupid places because you get stupid prizes.
Yeah, I'm not.
Chest.
Look, you'll get shot in something. I wouldn't do it.
Justin said something in the chat about, do you guys charge tax on heating repairs?
Oh, that's what me and Justin was talking today. Here, go ahead.
I know me. My price is my price. I've got tax figured into it.
Right.
So, as far as on the invoice, no, it doesn't add tax to it.
Right.
But I've got it kind of figured in with the rates.
Well, see, there in New Jersey, they have to charge sales tax. So, but here the only time we have to charge sales tax is if we mark equipment up or mark the part up or whatever, and then we're technically supposed to charge tax on that. But the way to get around that is everything's labor. So you're giving them a part and then just everything else is labor. That's why I don't break anything down. When somebody says, "Can you break all this down?" Nope.
Yeah.
If I do, you're gonna have to pay tax.
And that was one of the things my accountant told me with the flat rate. It just says repair this or do this. It's
right.
It's all in the wording of it.
Right.
Because I set out when I started my business to offer line itemized estimates and invoicing because nobody else did.
Nope.
And I found out real quick that's not the way to do it.
No, actually, I used to put like diagnostic charge, refrigerant, and I used to break everything down kind of like that. But I never would put labor. I changed the motor and it was that much. I do my diagnostic and then I change the motor and it was that much. So that way, if anybody ever came back and said, well, how much did you mark up the part? Well, I didn't mark up the part. It's all labor. What? You charged me that much in labor? Yeah. Because otherwise you'd be paying taxes on it.
Right.
So,
and see, that was another thing I never really understood. When I go and buy, like when you buy equipment, you pay tax on that equipment from a supply house.
Right.
So it's like, so you're almost paying taxes twice on it.
Right.
If you do it the other way.
Right.
So your tax should only come off of what the profit margin was.
Right, exactly.
Don't worry, they're going to tax you again when you spend it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, a dollar gets taxed how many times? There's no way of knowing. But yeah, so I don't ever itemize everything out. It just, change the motor this much. Um, so because here labor is not taxable, and I'm sure I guess there it's not taxable either. But um,
It might not be here either because we do the same thing. Like our flat rate pricing is all,
Right.
replace motor, one price. There's no breakdown.
right. There's no breakdown, and that's
So
I hardly ever have anybody say, "Well, what was the breakdown on all this?" Well, there's not. It's all one price.
Yeah.
Well, how much
that's what I tell people too. That's it. It's fixed.
Yeah, it's a fixed price.
How do you guys do it, Joe? He hasn't really. I don't know if he's got his mic on or not. But
No, I'm here.
oh, okay.
I itemize things out and charge tax, but we're tax exempt when we buy it. And I was wondering if Ralph is ever worried about like getting audited.
Nah, I'm not
My
worried
dad's
about it.
been audited before, because if they see you doing tons of business and never paying any sales tax.
Well, here's my when I take my thing to the accountant, I take them a copy, the accountant's copy of QuickBooks, and the only thing that it goes through the company, but the only my company never pays taxes because I pay them. It all comes out of my personal. So
Yeah, S corp.
yeah, so I'm a LLC, so everything just comes out of my personal. So generally, what's in the company is a company. It's what I actually pay myself is what I'm taxed on. So
Wait, so you pay tax when you buy the parts though?
yeah, I pay tax from when I buy the parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we do the same thing. I think it will work out better in the long run because then you're not.
Yeah, that's just another step.
Sales tax on your markup.
Yeah, that's just a different step, another step you have to go through, and I'd just rather not go through all that. I just
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Well,
just go ahead.
I was gonna say, like last year, like I'm still not actually on the payroll. I take draws as I need to.
Right.
But and that's one of the things my accountant wanted me to change. She's like, you need to be making a paycheck every week.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't make a check either. I just if my electric bill needs to be paid, I pay it. I give myself a draw, and I just I transfer. Actually, I do, but I might pay myself $500 one week because that's all I have, that needs to be paid or whatever.
Right.
I just transfer it over as I need it. So, but I'm not starving. Let's put it like that.
Right. Well, see, that's like my shop for the business is behind the house, and the power that feeds the shop comes off of my breaker box in the basement.
Right.
And she told me I needed to get separate service for that building out there. Because she said, like, right now, she's like, you're using power for that building and your home. She's like, where's your, she asked me.
Yeah, but you have a home office though, right?
Right.
Well, in that home office, you get a, you can write so much of that off.
Right. So I don't know and see.
Damn,
that's
your power bill's got to be. How much is your power bill? Got to be pretty high.
No, actually, I think the highest power bill we've had so far was like $220 a month.
Well, shit, I wouldn't even worry about it.
I mean, and that was a high one. I mean, I think the last one we got was like 160 something.
Wow. Hey, I finally got my cheapest electric bill that I've ever paid here was last month, and it was $82. I was like, man, I'm rolling in some dough now, boy.
That's another hour at the casino, ain't it?
I know, man. Sometimes it's like 3 seconds at the casino. But yeah, I haven't been in a couple of weeks, so I'm trying to cut back. So, but yeah, no, and this month I'm on track to do like $120. which is good because it's 85, 90 degrees here now, so the air's running all the time. And
what size unit is it?
What, mine at my house is
Yeah.
a 3-ton inverter, 5-speed. So it really has dropped the bill. Plus, there's not many people here.
Did you get that speed deal situated where because I remember the one podcast you were with Zach, you were talking about, you wasn't using all 5 speeds or something, wasn't it?
No, what it was in the very beginning. Yeah, I got it straightened out. But what it was in the very beginning. You would figure, like, when I got my furnace, it was an emergency deal, and they didn't have a 60,000, they had 100,000. And I was like, well, that, it should still modulate the speed down to where I need to be because I have a 3-ton outdoor unit, so it should drop it down because you would figure, well, the people up north have a higher heating load than they do a cooling load, so it should work. Well, let me tell you, 100,000 furnace will not drop the CFM below 700 CFM. And then so they wound up giving me a modulating furnace, and just put the furnace that I bought originally as a wrong application. And they just, they took it back and they were gonna, sell it to whatever for cheap or whatever. But yeah, in the beginning there was some communication issues with the zone panel and the rest of the system. So, but yeah, I finally got it straightened out. Now when I'm in first stage, I'm running like 230 CFM.
Right.
Which is, it's killing the humidity. It's like a humidity magnet, that sucker is. Now yours has been installed, right? Your box?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, how's it working for you?
Considering I still have not finished the return part of it, it's actually been working really well. I've been averaging on really humid days, I'll get as high as like today. It was pretty humid. The kids were running in and out, so it stayed right around 50 to 53%.
Right.
By morning, it'll be in the low 40s.
Oh yeah. Now now how old is your house?
It was built 1962.
Okay, so you have single pane still, or did y'all change it?
No, we just went to brand new windows about a month ago.
Okay, so that helps a whole lot. Like mine are still single pane. I have storm windows on them though, but my house was built in the early 70s, so it's not it's not as tight as what it should be.
And I've got a black roof, and I've only got it's pretty compressed right now. I've only got like R19 in my ceiling. So, once I get done with everything, I get the returns hard piped, and I'm pulling more return from upstairs than what I am from the basement. I mean, I foresee this thing really making a huge difference. Right.
So now, how does it modulate the speeds? Because it's fully variable, right?
Yes. So it's got two. It's reading pressure and temperature coming back on the suction, so it's reading superheat every 20 seconds,
right?
And it's maintaining it bases speed and fan speed on that, which mine's the 3-ton version. So it's just a two stage
right
PSC. We did a 4-ton here the other day on a mobile. It was a big double wide, and we even did the air handler with it, and it was unbelievable.
So how is it? So now, is it changing fan speeds inside though?
On the furnace? Yeah. No, it's a PSC.
How does it? Because if it's like, I'm going to call it low, when it's running at a low speed, and you're running
like say 36 hertz.
Right, and you're blowing full fan speed across of it. How is it cooling? as efficiently as what it could.
You still got all your sensible capacity. You're just losing latent with the higher fan speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told Chris he needs to fix that. Because I think what it does is it's so it's gonna see that your suction pressure is low, and it's gonna start to modulate down basing that on the load in the house is obviously low.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And like as the load increases, it'll increase the compressor to keep a target. So if he did stage his fan, that would drop the suction pressure, and it would allow the inverter to probably stay in a lower
Lower speed.
speed longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Seems
the furnace I'm putting on it for backup, I'm doing a variable speed furnace,
Right.
and then I'm redoing the return to where it's going to pull majority of the air from the upstairs, because the basement, the basement's the shit short cycle in the return right now in the basement. So the load, so it constantly thinks that the load is less than what it should be.
Right, because the basement's cooler.
Right. So, but as that, like what I done the other day, it was having a hard time keeping up one day, and I knew nobody was going to be home, and this kind of a redneck way of doing it. But I took a piece of flex, 16-inch flex from out of the shed, and I put it on the end of the return downstairs, and I ran it like up on the stairwell up here, and just to see a difference.
Yeah.
And went outside, and I was watching the LED display, and after I did that, within 2 minutes, I was running right at 75 to 76 hertz.
Right.
And before that, it pretty much it was staying right around that 36, 42, 43 hertz.
Right.
So it registered that, that hotter air, that higher load by doing that. So I know once I get all this return ducted up and everything,
it's going to make a difference.
Oh, it's going to make a huge difference. RJ asked if the 4-ton install had a variable speed indoor. Yes, the Bosch indoor unit does have a variable speed.
Do they talk to each other though?
The only thing it's reading pressures and temp. That's the only communication. That's it.
So how does the fan? So I mean, will the fan speed up and slow down or no?
In the air handler or the furnace?
Yeah. Or will it go when it calls for? When it calls?
No, it's going to run. It's just going to run whatever you've got it set at as far as variable speed or ECM. It's just going to do what it's programmed to do.
Wow.
It doesn't talk back and forth to slow it down based on the indoor. The indoor does what it does, and then the outdoor ramps up and ramps down based on the load that it's getting coming across the coil.
Right.
So like right now, I've got mine set on the adaptive setting, which means it's monitoring outdoor temperature and what the load is on the home, and it's saving those settings for the next time it sees that same outdoor temperature. But I've also got it set on accelerated cooling, which means I'm running a 37-degree coil.
Right.
So once I get all the duct work done, I'm going to take it back to 47-degree coil because I think that's going to be plenty fine.
Right.
RJ also asked, what if you have a 2-speed thermostat? Well, then you would just run it like you're running a single speed thermostat. And unless you're wanting the thermostat just to talk to the air handler or the furnace, and then you could program it to ramp up, ramp down based on runtime.
Right, but then I think it would. I don't know. That's just. I don't know. I'm still trying to get rid of the latent. Is what I'm trying.
Yeah, I think if it was
down here, I think it probably works better up there than what it would down here.
You'd have a cold and clammy house moving.
Yes, you would. I think you would. That's why. Yeah, because you're running.
what I was telling Chris to do was hook up a 2-stage thermostat, or even hook up a
And use a relay.
Well, yeah, use a relay, but just have the thermostat. All it does is it slows the fan down, which in turn slows the compressor down.
Right, and you could, like we talked about, you could even do the
Exactly.
dehumidification on the thermostat.
Yeah,
You know,
Y1 with dehum and Y2
right.
with dehum, but that would
I'm
solve.
thinking of doing that on my single speed unit.
Hey, whatever works.
My electric bill's pretty low though. We're on averaging, and I got
Right.
a 3-ton 13 SEER,
Right.
and it's averaged out to be $100 a month.
Wow. Yeah, because you're not using it in the wintertime.
Hey, Ralph, are you running?
We don't have winter time.
Yeah, I know.
Are
My air
you running
conditioner's
really
running.
low CFM per ton on your system?
Yeah, I've got mine. It's running about 300 CFM.
Is your ductwork all sweating underneath the house?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is. It is. It is. I'm going to go down there and because I did R6, but I'm going to actually go down there and wrap it in, put some bubble wrap on top of that and see what happens.
Hey, why don't you seal up your crawl space vents and stick a little Home Depot dehumidifier?
You know, hey, that works too.
It
I mean,
does.
it really does, and it will help up
Your
here as
indoor,
well.
yeah.
Uh, it does help. But yeah, I thought about it because I looked down there one day and saw, I was like, son of a bitch, my ducks are sweating. So I thought, well, I'll just take some bubble wrap and wrap on top of it and see if that will help. But yeah, that cold, slow air will make the ducks wet.
Yeah, that's why I don't like, I did a lot of systems with all the dehum speeds and all that, but then I'd come back to service them because I have that benefit of installing it and then coming back
Right,
servicing it
right.
and seeing what it's doing, rusting it out and molding, and
Yeah,
okay, this isn't such a good idea after
yeah.
a while.
Well, you know, you can put a couple of UV lights in the ductwork all the way through.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Or you could just run, and
I don't
that's
know, man. I sure do like coming in and having 49% inside the house.
yeah. I think you could get there as well with
With a dehumidifier in the crawl space.
a dehumidifier in the crawl space, but not only that, a smaller system to begin with, running 400 CFM a ton, that's going to run even longer.
Yeah, well, I like my inverter there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm saying you can use an inverter.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
it would be interesting
Well,
experiment to do a 2-ton.
that'd be an expensive experiment, though. Because I got a good deal on mine for sure, but man, I don't think I want to go change it out. But now I know what you're saying. Let it run longer.
At a higher speed.
At a higher speed to keep it from sweating.
But it's probably still sweat, to be honest with you, because the dew point under your house is probably like 68 degrees.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah. I haven't never measured it, but
yeah, it's probably in the mid 60s or 70s even, and you need some fly air that's colder than that. So
yeah, I could actually, if I sealed off my vents. I actually only have one down there that's open now, but if I sealed it off and I could actually put a supply vent in there. It'd be freezing down there though. It would be.
Start racking wine bottles in your crawl space.
Yep.
There you go.
It would work.
A lot of people pay a lot of money for those things.
Yep, it would work. Put a dehumidifier down there and then put a supply vent in there. It'd work. Because before my ductwork was, it leaked a little bit, and I'd open the door. It'd be nice and cool down there. So it don't leak anymore though.
Just put a little mini split on dry mode down there.
I could do that. I could. I have a perfect wall for it.
But I don't know how well that dry mode really works, because what is it doing?
It's slowing the fan down and dropping the temperature 4 degrees below set point. is what it's doing.
But does it turn the heat on as well? Or
No, no.
There is no heat. It's
Yeah, but
heat pump.
I'm
unit.
saying, doesn't it? I thought it kind of ran the cooling and then it ran the heat.
No, it
and then it ran
doesn't.
the cooling and then it
You
ran
know
the,
what you could do? You could put the condenser and the air handler down there. Then you'd have reheat.
Yeah, yeah. No, it doesn't. Joe, it what it does is it turns the fan in the low position, and then it drops the it'll run 4 degrees below the set point, and that's the reason the mini splits stay, get dirty quick. You get all that buildup and stuff inside that on the wheel, all that black stuff, because of the way the fan runs.
yeah, and I mentioned this to Eric too. You know how a normal blower fan is hollow on the ends, and obviously it sucks the air through where the
Yeah.
motor is on the other end, right?
Right.
Well, a mini split wheel isn't like that.
No,
It's
it's
kind of
not.
like a big paddle boat.
Yeah.
So how does the air enter the wheel? Is kind of I guess it's kind of under a negative pressure on the back.
I don't think it's really entering the wheel as much as you think, as much as, like you said, just like paddle boated through.
But
Yeah.
okay, so do you think that fan, the design of it, causes it to draw in hot, moist, dirty air, even though it feels like it's all coming out of the supply? Don't you think it's kind of sucking a little bit in?
That's a good question.
I don't know, but I don't know if it would. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I do too. I'd like to see a smoke test on that.
Yeah, and see if there's a point in that opening where it's pulling the smoke in.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see how it could
after
though.
the coil. It's after the coil though, so it's pulling in near 100% relative humidity, near 55-degree air.
And you figure
there's no duct system, so it's throwing it out and it's immediately mixing. So as soon as that thing like shuts off the cooling mode, all that air in the vicinity is right there next to that blower wheel. It's got nowhere to go.
The thing is that there's a lot of dust and stuff on these wheels, and it's not on the coil. So where's it coming from?
Well, the filters don't catch anything, and it's not big enough to get stuck in the coil.
Right. But it's actually, you know what it is, Joe. It's not dirt that's on that wheel. That's just plain nasty mildew that's on that wheel. Because
you see some dirt. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but I mean.
Well, most of them's plastic too, and that plastic, it gets a static charge to it anyway. So I think that's part of why on a lot of those mini splits, you do get what buildup you do of the finer particles is because of the static charge of the plastic.
Yeah, that could be true too. You actually static charging it.
Well, that could be it, and consider how low your thermal mass is because it's plastic, and the fact that there's no ductwork on it. Like I was saying, as soon as that thing shuts off, you got all that room temperature air mixing with that 100% relative humidity air that just came off the coil immediately at that fan. There's no thermal buffer like ductwork or everything else. It's going to take a longer time, I should say, to change temperature. That thing's changing right back to room temperature very quickly.
Yeah. Now, Joe, you put a couple of UV lights in, right? In the mini splits?
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with the light sticking to the plastic?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it had two-sided tape on it, right?
Yeah, and it comes with these alcohol wipes.
Yeah, I tried to do it on one, and stupid light fell.
Okay.
And yeah, so I went and got some like super glue.
Yeah.
And I stuck it on there, and so
Gorilla Glue, man.
It's part of the unit now.
I'm doing a
Flex Seal
scrubber on an air scrubber for a Mitsubishi next Thursday.
Really?
A ductless?
Yep.
I've done them.
You're gonna do that.
I've done them. You glue them in there, and you power it off the make sure when you power it that you go look at the outdoor unit and you make sure that, you know how it has 1, 2, 3. You make sure you're powering it off of the terminals that come in from the high voltage, because all 3 terminals are going to give you 240 to each other. But if you power it off the one that it's communicating on, it'll have comm errors and stop working.
Yeah, S1 and S2. S1 and S2. You know, and that's another debate. I don't know how many, you know, when you do a mini split pump, you know, which one do you break? Do you break your power, or do you break the communicating wire?
I've always broke the communicating.
I don't think you should break anything.
Well, when you do a pump, you got to break something for the flow switch.
The other day, my buddy called me. He went up to a call on a mini split, and the building department required them to put in a disconnect to the indoor unit.
Oh my God, I hate it when they do that.
And they broke 2 of the 3 wires, and somebody accidentally turned a disconnect off to the indoor unit, and it killed the board.
Really?
So I wouldn't recommend breaking any of those wires. Just let it leak some water, man.
No, no, man, no.
Make it kill the board. I mean, I don't know.
I had never had a problem when it broke, because I would break line 1, and then some people say, well, break the communicating wire. So
what type of pump are we talking about? A mini split specific one?
Just a mini split pump.
Like the little Diversitech.
Yeah.
What does it tell you to break? Is it an OEM approved pump?
Well, yeah. I use the Sauer, or I don't. It's that German one. Yeah, the Sauerman. I use it. I don't like the Diversitech one. I'd rather use the Sauerman.
I think they need to put some terminals somewhere to use for that.
Well, yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great idea because,
And it could even have like a flash code that says, optional float switch trip.
Yeah. Well, generally, generally, if I have one not working and I know it has a pump in it, that's the first place I go, to the pump.
Well, they make those boards anymore to be so expandable anyway. I don't see how that would be that big of a deal to add something like that.
Yeah. And it's a good idea to put a couple terminals on there. But it probably be a pain in the butt to get to, though.
Yeah, but that's going to cost them an extra $2. And when you're talking about making 10 million units a year, they're never going to do it.
Man, most of them coming from China anyway. Labor's cheap.
Yeah, well, if Mitsubishi wants to make some money on it, they can make a Mitsubishi pump, and they're the only ones that have that.
Well, the problem is that guys wouldn't use it, and they would still use a regular pump.
And then the other thing is, and this is what Train told me too, because the Train, if you ever notice, the new air handlers have a spot for a factory float switch accessory, and you notice how that you can't actually get one, right?
Well, I know, because I don't.
There is no factory float switch accessory. There's a plug for it on the board, but it doesn't exist, and the reason why is liability. Because if Train made a factory float switch,
they would,
and that unit still overflowed, now Train's liable. If they don't, now it's on the aftermarket or the contractor.
Right. So what's the point in having those terminals?
Well, the lawyers decided that they weren't going to put it on the unit.
Oh, wow.
The engineer said this would be a great idea, and it was. And the lawyer said, yeah, it's a great idea, but we're liable, so it's not a great idea.
Damn, leave it to the lawyer.
That's what. Hey, man, that's what we got. We got engineers and lawyers designing equipment. People who have never been in the field.
I know. But that it would be a good idea, or just have it there. And let us decide if we want to use it or not.
The few Ream inverter units that I've put in, they have a couple set of auxiliary contacts, and you can tell the thermostat what you've done like a
Right.
freeze stat or a float switch, and when it trips, it logs that error code in there. So you go to it and you'll see multiple float switch. It says float switch. Whenever you tell it what it is, that's
Right.
what generates the code. So I think that's be useful because you can, she says, well, it stopped cooling and then it came back on.
Right.
And
Right.
you
Right.
see a float switch trip in there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but does Ream make a float switch for that unit?
No, that's what I'm just saying. They just have
That
wires and they have auxiliary
exactly.
contacts, and you can put a freeze stat if you want.
So they had smart engineers and lawyers, whereas Train was just had cautious engineers and lawyers that said, we're not even going to try.
Not
Ream
even
was
try.
like, we'll put it there, but we're not going to actually make anything that
No,
goes there.
you can tell it what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They got creative with it.
That's nothing wrong with that. I had a service call that would have been freaking useful as hell on. I just one service call and I went to it and it was cooling when I got there and I was like, man, there's nothing wrong with this thing. It's cooling great. It just needs to be washed. So I washed it and checked it out and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't cooling. And then so he called me back like 3 hours later. The man, this thing stopped cooling again. Like, you gotta be kidding me. And then I said, well, just I'll be out there. And he calls me back and said, man, it's working again. I'm like, oh, really? And then so finally, when he called me back again and said it quit cooling again, when I got there, I went right to the pump and saw the pump was stopped up enough, but it was letting a little water.
Slow drainer.
Yeah, just letting it just enough water. It would take a while to.
That's one thing I do. If I can't find anything happening while I'm there, I go to my truck. I got a 1 gallon container. I got an automotive funnel.
Yeah, and pour it in there.
Pull the panel off the unit and pour that in there. And if it backs up, you know that, if we got to drain.
Yeah.
You don't know how many times I've been called out. There's these Climate Master heat pumps.
Oh, yeah.
And the water source ones.
Oh, yeah, with the little pre-made drain inside.
Yeah. So many people. I've been called out after another company. Another changed the reversing valve in the unit because of a stop drain.
What?
What? They didn't know what to do, man. These people, they went out there. They valve in the unit because the board was throwing an error code, and I guess they don't know how to read very well, because that's hard. So they changed the reversing valve.
Because it tells you.
Then the guy that put the reversing valve in melted it, so they changed it again, and then the unit still didn't work. So then they told the customer they needed a new board. I went there and I cleared the drain and I took like 2 pounds of refrigerant out of it because it had like 50 degrees of subcooling.
Wow.
Wow.
So they overcharged the crap out of it on 410A. They were just like, oh, we'll put some more gas in it.
Well, that tells you they didn't weigh it in, apparently.
Nah, it just tells me there were idiots upon idiots because they left their service stickers in there. It was a really big company by me that's the most expensive outfit in town. And they left like service stickers of what they did, like replace reversing valve, replace reversing valve.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
What are you guys doing? And then they're like added Freon, like I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to have 56 degrees of subcooling ever.
That unit will tell you.
I know.
Clogged up. It had a drain.
Well, I went to one the other day, and it was just flashing a code that said lockout. It did not tell me why it locked out, but I knew the units, so I just poured water in the pan and saw it stop up, and I was like, all right.
Well, that drain hose is clear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can see it,
but it gets stained. It gets stained. You know what I mean? So that's why I just pour the water in the pan, and I'm like, pan filled up immediately. I'm like, yep, that's it. Because they told me too. They're like, this building is like, our maintenance guy said it's draining. So I get to go back to the people, and I'm like, they're like, what was the problem with the unit? I said the drain was clogged.
Yeah.
But their guy said the drain was clear. I'm like, I'll show you a video on my phone.
That's why he's a maintenance guy.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll show you a video on my phone right now of me pouring water in there and a pan filling up. So I take videos of all I do.
I used to go to this one apartment building all the time, long time ago, and the maintenance guy down there was an idiot, and he was like, he's like, yeah, man. He said, you should let me come to work for you. I was like, now why in the world I was thinking to myself, didn't you just call me down here because you couldn't fix this unit? Why in the world would I want you to come work for me?
Yeah, I had one guy the other day, and he's a maintenance guy, and like most of the time, you know, a lot of the guys are cool. They know that they are limited in their AC, and they do a lot of other stuff that I don't know. So I'm not going to say
I'm not going to fault anybody for.
They will in somebody when it's not just clearing a drain or something really simple.
Right.
I'm not going to make fun of him for it, but the guy was like, the unit was like out of gas completely. And I'm like, yeah, it's most likely a high side leak. You know, just kind of making conversation with the guy when it's completely out. And the guy got real arrogant with me, and he's like, I know that. I got my EPA. I'm like,
oh yeah,
okay, buddy.
EPA thing.
You got your EPA.
Yeah, because a lot of times these guys will be like, yeah, I have my license. And I'm like, you have to ask them, which license are you talking about? Oh, my EPA license.
I don't bother asking. I already know. If you got a contractor's license, you're not going to be working as a maintenance guy for a building.
Well, yeah, but you know, that's a big deal for the apartment. The people that hire must be HVAC certified.
EPA certified.
Exactly. Oh, well, here they say HVAC certified. Exactly what certification is that? And they consider the EPA card the HVAC certified.
And then they're like, all right, you're EPA certified. Here's some MP39. Put it on top of some R22. Mix it in this unit. And the guys are like, all right.
RS44B, buddy.
The new 22 is the one that I was talking to Joe about this the other day. These guys are just dumping it on R22 because it says new 22 on the box.
Yeah, well,
new 22 drop in.
Let me tell you something. I had one the other day that was about, I had about a pound left in that sucker. I was like, this unit's on his deathbed. I was like, I'm not recovering that stuff. I put it right on top of it. I did it. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you.
Well, if they're like 5 psi in the unit, that's really not messing with the ARI purity standards.
Right.
But if you're talking about, okay, we're running a 60-pound suction, and we're just going to top it off with a pound.
Yeah.
That's what guys are doing, though.
Yeah.
Like, you do realize that that's illegal, right?
They're going to have a lot of problems with guys really overcharging. When they do that, their units are going to be so overcharged because they're going to be like, oh, yeah, well, I need to be at, 70 pounds. I need to be at 70 pounds. And 70 pounds on this drop-in refrigerant is not the same as 70 pounds on R22.
Well, yeah, and then they add it no matter what. And I told the guy the other day because he was a maintenance guy, and it didn't seem like he really knew a lot, and he was receptive to learning. And he's like, "Well, what should I charge these to?" I'm like,
"Yeah,
download." I said, "Download Emerson Check and Charge app, buddy." I said, "Download that app, punch in the numbers, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do."
Right.
Said, every time. So that's what I tell people anymore. It's like, if they're younger anyway, if they don't seem like they're a person that uses a smartphone at all, then I'm like, I don't really want to lecture people.
Yeah. With the smartphones nowadays, you can't.
Yeah, this guy seemed like he wanted to learn. He wanted to better himself. He's like, well, what do you charge to? And I'm like, dude, just download this app. Let it give you some idea of what's going on. I told him, I said, the only reason we're measuring pressure is to convert to temperature.
Right.
And I tell people that all the time, and it blows their mind. They're like, what?
I had a guy call me because I put an ad up that I was looking for help, and I was looking for entry level. I wanted somebody, just a greenhorn to start at the bottom. And guy called me, and the ad said 10 to 14 an hour is what I was going to start him out at. And he's like, well, he said, how do I get to that? What do I got to do to start off at that 14? I said, well, do you have any construction, experience at all? Like what? He's like, well, I used to do water damage renovation and mold abatement and all that. And he said, we used to do all the tear out and the build back. I was like, well, then you've got some experience. I mean, you understand, how to read a tape measure and things like that. And I was breaking it down. I was like, listen, this is an entry level position. It starts here, and then this fall you'll have, if it works out, you'll be able to go through the apprenticeship program. And I said, then your raises will be based on the years of the apprenticeship that you complete. And I said, when you top out, you'll top out at, 22, 23 an hour. And he was like, well, can I just go take the tests?
Yeah, can I
And
go
was like,
take the test?
yeah, and I was like, well, what? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm really good at taking tests. If you'll just give me the stuff to study, he's like, I'll just take the tests. And he said that I can top out in like a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
I was like, sure, you could learn the questions and the answers to the questions, but that don't mean you can do the work. Well, yeah, it does. And that was, for me, that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
anybody that's like that from the beginning, I mean, maybe they could, but maybe they should have kept their lips zipped and shown you instead of talking about it.
Exactly.
You know that's
the
best way.
I mean, that's what I did where I'm working now. I mean, I started I started topped out, but I've gotten raises since then because of keeping my lips zipped and doing what I'm supposed to do, and not even had to ask for a raise. So,
right, and that's unbelievable. Like, I've had people right out of who are graduating this year who contacted me. I mean, these are kids right out of high school, and they're like, well, so you put an ad up for 10 to 14, but you're not paying anybody 14. I was like, well, what skill set do you possess that thinks you should start off at the top of what I'm offering for an entry-level position?
Exactly.
Well, my dad's a carpenter, and I've helped him. I was like, okay, but how does that relate to what I'm going to have you do? I had so many people who didn't make it past the first 3 minutes of a phone conversation.
Yeah, because it's totally different. Like, you can't learn like installing that coil the other day. You can't learn that in 2 weeks. I mean, you just can't. It takes it does take experience. My
dad, growing up, the one thing he always used to tell me, and now I understand it more so now than ever before, he would just tell me, he said, one word you got to remember the rest of your life, and he said it'll take you farther than anything I can ever tell you, and he said that is just the word think.
Yeah.
He said if you'll just stop and think, then that's all you have to do.
Yeah, and then when experience comes along, that thinking gets a little faster.
Right.
But
just understanding what if I do this, what does that affect down the line of order of operations?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's I'm guilty of it to this day. I make mistakes.
Oh, I make mistakes.
Perfect.
I make
exactly.
I've learning how to work yourself out of the corner you painted yourself into is that's where you really learn something.
Well, I and I'll be honest with you. There's one main reason that I don't like order my transitions and stuff like that is because I might change my mind when I get to the job and say, well, I don't want to do it like that because that was a dumb idea and I want to do it like this.
Right.
Or I turn after the job is done and said, damn, I should have done it like I was going to do it originally.
Yeah. Or, we could have went 2 inches this way and we'd have had more access to get to a gas line.
Exactly. And that's, in one of my sheet metal series videos, I made that point. I was like, yeah, you can order this stuff and you every job be run okay. But what happens is that one time you're off an inch.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to know how to fix it?
Stretch the crap out of that flex connector.
Yeah. Well, we don't use, there's not a lot of flex connectors here, but,
well, that's, I used to try and measure everything up, make the fittings and take them with me. But I told the guys, cause now I've got one of my installers, Bob, he was 2 years ahead of me in the commercial apprenticeship. That's how we met.
Right.
And I know he knows how to make fittings. And I told him, I was like, here's the deal. I was like, now that I've got you, I was like, put that box and pan brake on the truck. And when you go on these installs, take you some flat metal that's already pre-cross broke, if you need to, or cross break it in the field. But I was like, there's nothing wrong on residential jobs of making a transition with S's.
Hell no. I do it every time. And the other day, when I did that coil the other day, because I had to stand on the ladder going into the attic and lay my sheet metal out right there on the floor because I just had so much room. And I used the wood on the edge of the case there, and that's where I made my cross break.
Right.
I just used my
Me too, but honestly, I would rather measure it and have somebody else make it. Even though we don't do hardly any metal down here.
Right.
I would much rather not deal with it.
But no, you're right. I mean,
so let me ask you this, and I'm sure everybody has their own way of doing it. Like, I've got a job coming up. We've got to tie into some old duckboard trunk line.
Right.
And I told Bob, I said, before you leave, I said, make you some channel.
Right.
And do like an 1.5 inches by 1, and then a 1-inch leg on the other side. So you're gonna have a long leg, your flat, and then another short leg. And I said, that duckboard's like 20 inches wide by like 10 inches tall. So I said, make them long enough you can do it in 2 pieces. And I said, then you make your frame, and that 1 inch is going to slide, and basically it's going to seal the end of that duckboard. And then I said, I want you to take your new piece, the piece that we're attached to, and you're going to slide it inside of that.
Right.
And then we'll just duck wrap it.
Oh, you're talking about making metal. Yeah.
So, and he was like, why don't you just slide it in there? Because I said, I don't want that raw edge of that duckboard. I said, to me, that just that's the way I want it. I want it to look nice. I want it to have that, that 1.5 inch support there. So that way, when we slide the new piece into it, it stiffens it up. And then I said, then we'll tape that up.
Yeah, it'll be.
And then when
you can screw your new transition to that metal coming off the duckboard.
Right.
And then it's got enough, tension there that's pushing it up against that duckboard anyway.
Right. I said, this will be one of the first times I've had to attach to duckboard.
Right.
So in my mind, honestly, that's what made sense.
Honestly, you know what? If I got a duckboard transition or a duckboard plenum, I'm using duckboard.
Right. I figure at that point, if they already have duckboard, they obviously don't care about quality.
Right.
So we're just going to put some more duckboard in there for you, buddy.
I will. I'll just use duckboard again. I'm not going to, use metal and wrap it. I'm just going to, whatever's there, that's what I'm going to go back with. And I hate to use it, but
it's garbage.
Yeah, it is what it is. But if it's already there,
Yeah, you're not going to save the world with a 2-foot piece of metal onto their duckboard duct system.
I would just use duckboard. It would be a whole lot faster, in the field. That's what I would do. But I know this one guy, because I asked him, I was like, and y'all all know that nobody, unless you work for somebody that knows how to work with sheet metal and make transitions, nobody ever teaches you how to do it. You just kind of, and a lot of guys are, thank God for tape. And I asked him, I said, would you be willing to come to a class to learn how to do sheet metal transitions? And he said, no. And I said, well, why not? He said, because I use duckboard. I was like, what do you mean you use duckboard? You use duckboard on, like, if you have a sheet metal plenum and you use duckboard from the coil to the, yeah. Like, really? He said, yeah, I do it all the time. I was like, well, that's a shitty way to do business, but that's your deal.
That's the thing, so man. Florida is land of duckboard.
Yeah. Do you, like, say you've got you can get to, let's say you got a transition or a plenum, you can get to it, like, for whatever, whether it have a tap in the side of it or whatever. If you can get to it to screw it on, do you prefer to do an inside furnace flange or an outside furnace flange?
What do you mean? When, like, if I'm,
say I've got a 21 wide furnace, okay?
right.
And I'm going to put, I do a lot of downflow, so it's a downflow.
Okay, so I don't do any downflow.
Hang on, hang on. Hey, down. Come on.
I would love if they would ban duct.
Ductwork.
There's so much to ductwork, it should be its own trade. As far as like an AC guy's concerned, he should be able to transition a fitting to connect his unit to existing. I believe that's where the ductwork responsibility ends in the AC trade.
Well, the problem with that though is that well, I mean, we have it in the AC trade already. Guys not doing the ductwork the right size. You know what I mean?
I'm willing to bet that you have it much better than we do.
No, don't bet.
I have a unit right now that's in a house. The lady has 15 systems, right? They got money. They spared no expense building this place. It's a 5-ton unit.
Oh, I know.
With a 16-inch return. It's on a zone system. The bypass is wide open because it's got that much resistance, and it's still running 1.5 inches of water.
Wow.
We had to throttle the suction valve, which is a tip that Joe actually taught me. I had to have my guy do it. We had to throttle the suction valve on it to get it to not freeze up. It has 2 freeze stats on the coil, and it was still freezing up.
Wow.
I mean, and this is like the norm. It's not like there was another unit in that house that was also 5
ton. Both have a drink. Hey, keep it at the table.
50 feet of 16-inch flex off the supply and the return, and it had a 1-inch pleated filter in the unit in the filter rack. It was also running 1.5 inches of water.
Wow. Now, did they only have on that 5-ton? Did they have the ductwork come off just one side of the furnace?
It's an air handler.
Oh, air handler.
And it's ducted on both sides.
Oh.
It's horizontal in an attic, and it's 16-inch flex supply, 16-inch flex return on a 5-ton.
Wow.
Zoned. So at times the zones shut off. Like one zone will shut off.
Right. Crazy, man. Crazy.
It's on a third evaporator coil in 10 years.
You what? How many?
Third evaporator coil in 10 years.
Wow.
I see these too. Like all these custom homes, the systems are oversized. Way oversized. That Mitsubishi coil I was talking about earlier that was leaking, it's a 2-ton unit for 1 bedroom. A small bedroom. Like 160 square feet.
I have one guy. And you know, I had a friend of mine that worked for Mitsubishi, and he was one of the trainers, and he one guy asked him, he said, "How do you size these things?" And he said, "Well, it's an air conditioner, so you size it just like you would any other air conditioner." But it's a big misconception that, man, it's a mini split. You know, if it doesn't need it, you know, so I can put a 2-ton in here, and it, you know, it need a just one. But
yeah, it needs about 6,000 or 9,000 BTUs, and it's a 2-ton.
Yeah.
Some guy on Instagram, he was talking about he sizes units 200 square foot a ton. He's in Arizona.
What? Well,
yep.
200
well,
square
still,
foot a ton.
Still, he was talking to another tech in Arizona that was like, "You're crazy. We size like 400 square foot a ton."
Right. We do that commercially. You know,
it's still very, very high. I mean, if you're gonna have a lot of people,
right,
it's a lot of air. But yeah, I know guys here in Florida that size residential 400 square foot a ton. Like CFM a square foot is their rule.
Right. Yeah, ours is a general rule. It's about 600 square foot per ton.
Yeah. That's generally what it's at here. My house is a 1,600 square feet. I got a 3-ton. It works fine.
Yeah.
5 tons of air whipping through 1,000 square foot house.
Hey, there's people out there that will do it.
I had a customer call me. I never ever went to the call because they called up on the phone. They're like, "I got a 5-ton unit. We got a great deal on. We had a 2-ton before, but we had this 5-ton put on because we got a great deal." And they're like, but it's not working right. And I'm like, well, you know, we're going to have to rip that out and go back to a 2-ton. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do for you. And then that's where the conversation ended. But, you know.
Go put a 2-ton compressor in for them.
Yeah, then they're going to have like a warm evaporator coil running like a 60-degree evaporator and have high humidity.
I lost a job this week. I bid a job that was a 5-ton with existing equipment was a 5-ton Amana heat pump, and it was for an office building for the housing authority here, and it had heat strips in it for backup heat. And make a long story short, the compressor. Now, granted, this was an Amana, but it was in a commercial application, so it didn't qualify for the replacement. But it had a mechanical failure in the compressor. So I gave him a price, and I ran it 4 ways for him. I ran it because he was talking about, well, we want to, you know, they pinch pennies big time. So they're like, what if we just went straight AC? You know, so we've got the cooling, and we'll just use the electric heat. And I was like, do you realize what your power bill's going to be?
If they pinching pennies?
Yeah. So anyways, so I gave him a price on it, and then I gave him a price on doing a heat pump, 16 SEER, you know, apples for apples for basically what they had.
Right.
And then I gave him the price on the Bosch because, you know, in the conversation, even though he said he was going to run straight electric heat possibly, but he wanted to see how much it would be to go higher efficiency heat pump. And anyways, so my lowest bid was for the straight AC was like $3,800 just to do a, you know, condenser swap out 5-ton, you know, just straight in and out, you know, reuse line sets, you know, whatever. $1,800 is what they paid. I don't know who did it.
What?
But $1,800 for a 5-ton straight AC.
Wow. They got them off of Craigslist there, buddy.
That's what's probably a used or stolen unit.
Wow.
It's got to be something. So
$1,800.
The maintenance guy for him told me, because I had to go do another job for him, and he told me, he said, I figured I'd let you know you got some competition doing our housing now, because he said this new guy just done this swap out at the office, and he said he only charged $1,800 for this 5-ton unit. I was like, that's fine. Let that guy keep doing that stuff for that money. I said he won't be around long.
You know, I was doing some work for a property manager, and I go out there and I'd find the units leaking or you know, need to be replaced or whatever. And the guy, he told me, he said, look, he said, I got a guy that will install these units. He said, I buy them and he installs them for you know, this really cheap price or whatever. But he doesn't know how to do service. So I want you to do our service, but I'm going to have him do the installs. And I was like, you know what? I just thought, I don't want to even be involved in this because that guy screws it up. Now I got to come fix it. Nah.
I'm fine with that. I go to that all the time and make more money off the service call than the install.
Nah.
I can't tell you how many Goodmans I've gone to because they had non-condensables in them, pulled the charge out into a recovery cylinder, pulled a vacuum, charged that same liquid back into the unit, and walked away and charged them a bunch of money.
Yeah, well, here
you go, buddy. That's what you get. Like, you saved a bunch on that install, though.
Yeah, don't worry. When he first called me, he was like, how much you charge to do this, this, and this? And I'm like,
we make our most money off of people that are stupid like that. Yeah. We have an account right now. They have 2 Train and Telepacks on the roof. They have one's probably a 50 or a 60 ton. The other's probably 80 or 100, right?
Right.
We changed all 4 compressors on the smaller one because they didn't ever commission the system properly and adjust the TXVs. They were flooding back. So every time we changed the compressors, we were adjusting the TXVs so they wouldn't die again. Well, we said, what about your bigger unit? You want us to check that for like a cheap service charge? No, we don't want to check that. Okay. Well, when you change all 4 of those compressors out, we're going to make way more money off of you. So have fun with that.
Let them do what they got to do or what they want to do.
Well, that's the thing. You make more money off of that account by doing the service.
I
Because it's
know,
going to
but
break constantly.
I just don't want to work for that cheap bastard.
Well,
I mean, honestly.
hey, if they're going to
Yeah.
pay you to do service, though, you pay to do your service. I'd rather do service than install, especially by yourself. Would you rather be installing those units, or would you rather be coming back, having a good laugh, and charging them the same amount of money to fix it?
I'd rather
Actually,
do something else altogether.
those houses actually were good for a couple of videos. So
I had a call this week from one of those places that Ralph's not allowed to talk about.
Mhm.
And I get out there, and it's almost flat on charge. It's an old unit. The guy's moving into it. He just closed on it that day, and it was froze up. So I call in to get approval to do a leak search, electronic leak search, and didn't find anything. And I called him back and I said, "What do you want me to do from here? Do you want me to charge a unit?" And of course, the guy flips his lid because they're only covering $15 a pound for refrigerant.
I was going to ask you how much they.
Yeah, 15.
Is it still 15?
15. Now, they did ask what my standing pressure was.
Right.
And apparently they have a chart they go off of now for standing pressure to determine if they want it to pay me to pull it out and do a retrofit. And they are allowing 407C for a retrofit.
Right.
So, well, anyways, apparently the standing, it's like 70 something pounds standing pressure, but that was above their cutoff.
Are you serious?
So, yeah.
Wow.
70 pounds is nothing.
I know.
Do they ask you what outdoor ambient is?
Nope.
Then standing pressure doesn't mean anything.
Not without knowing what the outdoor.
Yeah. So, anyways, they they said, "Well, why don't
there
how
wasn't
much
even
do you
an
charge?"
ounce of refrigerant in there.
Yeah, they said, "How much would you charge to put stop leak in it?" I said, "I won't put stop leak in it." I was like, because if you call me back to this job and I know there's stop leak in it, I'm not putting my gauges on it.
You must have seen my videos.
And they've lost their mind with me on the phone.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you want to do? I said, I'd like to do an isolation test.
Oh,
figure out. No, they wasn't having that at all.
Yeah, no.
So, long story short, they determined that this guy got so mad he canceled his plan with them, and I got stuck with $150 of non-covered charges because he just got mad and said he wanted his money back. So now they say he owes me the $150. He says they should owe me the $150 because they're the one that told me to do the work. So
well, technically, he signed a contract or whatever. So, I mean, with them,
right,
and technically, they owe you the money.
Right. So I've got to call my district rep Monday and figure out what we're going to do to fix this. And that the guy asked me, he said, what are you going to charge me to charge it? And I said, well, it's going to be this much to clean the coil and get it clean because it was a dirty coil. And I told them that. I was like, before I charge it, I'm going to have to clean the condenser coil. And the guy's like, oh, well, that. He's like, I've got one of these. And he walks to his garage and he's got one of them rods that's got the holes in it that you stick down through the inside and blow it out with water.
Right.
And he said, yeah, I know the guy that invented this. And he said, if I clean it, then how much?
Oh, geez.
So I just told him, I was like, you're going to probably have to call somebody else. Cause I was like, because he wanted to balk with me on the price. And I was just like, I'm walking. I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had a guy refer a guy to me, and in the voicemail, he was like, how much is your trip charge? Do you give a military discount? And how much is Freon? And on the phone, the guy told me, he said, I'm not paying that much, for Freon. That's just robbery. I was like, okay. He said, but if I do need you, can you come out tonight? And I was like, I told him I would, but if he would have called me back, I was like, nah, dude, I'm covered up. I wouldn't have gone because he was going to be that type that just you know, I didn't want to be rude on the phone. I say, hell no.
I had a guy call me today. He's like, listen, he said, my unit's 27 years old. He said, we've got to put refrigerant in it about every 2 to 3 years. He said, it's low again. It's been 2 years since we had it charged. He said, it's R22. He said, what do you charge? What's it going to cost me for you to come out and charge it up? I said, we're $85 a pound on R22.
Oh, you cheap.
And he told me that he said, no, never mind. He said, the guy here in town is $60 a pound on 22. Like, okay.
Hey, that guy won't be around very long.
Yeah. I bought 2 jugs of 22 last week.
Man.
Just shy of $2,000.
You must be rolling in the dough.
So.
Yeah, we're trying to transition away from it now. My boss was like, oh man, this stuff, we need to start getting away from it. I said, whoa, hold on a second though, because for what we're charging and what we're paying for it, we're still making money, and it makes sense to keep it around a little while longer.
What are y'all charging for it?
$100 for the first pound, $75 for each additional.
Oh hell, I'm at $115. It don't matter how many pounds you put in it.
We're still making money. We're still making money at that price.
You are, but like I said, it's just one of those deals.
When somebody needs 10 pounds of it, it's pretty much they're going to buy a new system. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
If somebody needs a pound, that's what we're keeping it around for. If you need a pound of refrigerant, 2 pounds of refrigerant.
That's what I'm doing.
Somebody going.
If you need a pound or 2 pounds, and I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not going to lie to none of you guys, I am dropping replacement 407C or whatever on top of 22. I'm doing it, and I have done it on a couple systems. And because the way I'm seeing it now, if that thing is that low where I need to do it, if it's 3-4 pounds low, I'm doing it. I'm not going to recover all that refrigerant, because guess what, that thing needs to be replaced.
Recover it to 5 psi and then drop it on top.
Yeah, well,
why don't you recover it and keep the R22?
That's what I'm saying. Recover the 22 to 5 psi, and then drop your 407 in there, and then sell the 22 back to your supplier. I mean, win-win.
Yeah, I'm at $10. They're giving me $10 a pound for 22 returned.
You obviously don't care too much about EPA stuff, so just use it on other stuff.
Well, that's true. I know some guys that are doing that too. But
we can't try to compete, because we see these guys. There's a lot of guys right now. It's the big trend. These guys have a pickup truck, and they have a couple cans of whatever R22 drop-in rolling around in the back, and that's all they're doing is gas and goes.
No,
any tools.
Well, the freaking home warranty asked me the other day to drop MO99 in. I said, I can't. It's not. I said, that's illegal. It's not a drop-in. She said, well, and the lady's like, yes, it is. I said, there's no drop-in. You have to recover what's there. It's against the law. And then later on in the conversation, she said something else stupid. And I was like, do you understand refrigerant and the refrigerant cycle? And she got mad at me. She told me she was going to call my rep.
The thing about it is, if you recover a system down to 5 psi, and we know it's a leaker system, so if you recover down to 5 psi, that's not even going to be like a fraction of an ounce of refrigerant.
No, it's not going to be.
So
I did one the other day.
I would feel, my conscience would feel good if I recovered a system down to 5 psi and then put a drop in on top. But I'm not going to be the guy that's doing exactly what I'm bitching about. So. Well, whatever.
No, I know, and you know what?
We can't compete with those guys. I can't compete with these guys that are going to charge you $20 to come out to your house.
Oh, no, I'm not doing all that.
And drop refrigerant on top.
Hey, before we know it, damn 407C is going to be just as much as 22.
Well,
has 410A gone up anymore?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
410A's up.
Yeah, it's over $200 a drum.
This happened a few years ago with 410A, if I remember correctly. There was a shortage.
It did. 125 is a shortage.
And it happened to 134, I think, as well, like a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, see, now it's because Some guy told me that one of the plants in China caught on fire or something, and then but it's a 134 is a problem, or not 134, 125. The shortage on it because it's
One-
for everything.
125.
Yeah,
I bought 5 jugs of it at 185 because I didn't know how high it was gonna go.
yeah.
That's what we did. We bought 5 jugs of 410, and I got them for like 130, 140 a jug.
Yeah, the last I bought it was 175, but that's before it went up.
We bought a bunch, but we go through so much. I mean, I've used myself about 20 jugs this year.
Wow. Yeah, but you're working on those big systems though.
No, not a ton of it. I mean, some, yeah, but just doing a lot of general stuff where you need it. You go through a lot of it.
Yeah.
I know because I have it all stacked up in my shed right now because I take them out and shoot them once they only have vapor pressure in them.
Ah. You like to see them explode?
They don't really explode. It just you'll know the first time you shoot them because, like I said, it's like there's not even an ounce of refrigerant left in them.
Right.
I don't know. I had a jug of 22 that was at like 35 psi, and I recovered it down to a 10-inch vacuum. I got 8 ounces out of that thing.
Yeah.
What was your outdoor ambient?
Doesn't matter. I'm saying the jug had 35 psi in it.
Yeah, but the ambient temperature matters about how much volume that's going to be.
Well,
I'm sitting there I'm charging a unit and it's 90 degrees, and I'm charging it until that jug is only reading 120 left in it on 410A. There's nothing left in this thing.
Oh, there's a pound at least in that thing. I guarantee you.
There's no liquid. You can turn them upside down and crack them out.
I promise you, there's a pound of Freon in there. Do it if you don't believe me.
I've recovered them. There's maybe an ounce.
Nah.
I've done it.
Hey, I've recovered all. I had like 8 or 9 drums of 22 out there one time. Empty. I got 16 pounds out of them damn thing.
Yeah, if it's at like 120 psi or something, but it's all vapor, you'll probably get at least a pound and a half out of that one.
Yeah.
It's more than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be amazed how much refrigerant's left in the drum.
So, whenever you're dropping in that 407C, if it's a mineral oil system, are you putting anything else in it?
No, the stuff that I buy is.
Oh, it's got the oil over it. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
I think I've asked this before, but how the heck does that oil come out evenly?
I have no idea.
It can't.
I don't care. All I know is it says it has it in it, and so I'm going to use it.
Makes you feel good about it.
It makes me feel good. On the drum, it says contains, and it tells what it contains, and POE is part of it. So, hey, if there's some R22 in there, it's going to help the mineral oil return anyway. There you go. See? There you go.
Yeah, we got that 407 with the POE in it.
It made by BMP.
We've been doing a lot of conversions on 407 not a lot because most people don't want to pay to keep it running, but we've done a few. Right.
It's BMP, right? That brand.
I have no idea.
Yeah, look at the brand. I think they're the only ones that I know of that has a POE added to it.
I haven't used the POE added oil yet. We just started getting that because we've been doing a couple conversions, but it's not worth it. If I have a residential customer, it's not worth repairing a refrigerant leak on an R22 system anymore.
It's really not. It's not.
We do financing. We do really competitive pricing on changeouts. So
the only thing that using the and go back to the old days of where, I just don't have the money to replace.
If I told you what we were charging, you'd think these people are nuts for telling us we're too expensive to replace a system. We quoted a customer the other day $4,500 to $4,800 to replace 410.
Really?
Depending on which system they went with, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not ready to spend that kind of money yet."
Are you serious?
And we're a union company.
Really? Damn. Because I looked. That was a 4-ton.
Yep.
Because
that'd be about a 16-seer Rooter train.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I quoted a 2-ton system at 48 the other day. Heat pump.
Well, we get the guys down here like you were talking about that are going to do it for free.
Yeah, yeah.
That are going to steal the equipment and do it for free, or put in used equipment, and the customer's not going to know better. Who knows where they get it from?
Wow, 4 ton for 4 ton air handler and
It
heat
was
pump.
easy. It was vertical on a stand in
Now
a
see,
garage.
yeah.
If it was
Well,
in an
see,
attic, it would have been more. But
in my situation where where you got AC and a case coil, a lot of times people are like, well, I can't afford to do a whole system right now. So what I'll do is I'll replace the coil and I'll convert it over to 407C, and that way when the unit dies, I'll still, I'll be able to use the new coil and just go back and put a new condenser there.
yeah, we don't
I
really
get
have
that.
that.
I get that here.
So, I mean, fortunately, with me having gas furnaces, I can still just change the coil and just put it, of course, it'll be a piston coil. But if I want to add a TXV to it later, I can. That's a nice part about a Goodman, or actually,
Yeah, but
go ahead.
we would charge like $1,800 to do that. Change your evaporator out.
Right. Well, I'm just a little cheaper than that, not much cheaper.
Well, I'm just giving a ballpark. It would
Right.
depend on a lot of factors.
Right. But now if
I did one the other day for $1,200, but it was 410A, and it was a cheap coil our cost.
Right. But if I come across a heat pump and an air handler, I'm like, no, you got to change the whole system. But if it's a gas furnace, then I'll just change the coil.
Have y'all tried to get a Goodman coil yet this year?
No, they're Aspen coils. I did try to get one.
You can't get like a replacement air handler one either.
Oh, you can't? Yeah, because they're having trouble since they moved to that new.
Do you have to buy an air handler and strip it out of there?
No, they don't make
because
those
they
air
won't
handlers
fit.
anymore.
They won't fit.
I tried to
coil
get
won't-
one for ARUF 3636 or something, and they had to ship one because one branch had one, and that was it.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow.
It was
Yeah,
a
everybody take
$500
note.
Goodman coil. A $500 Goodman coil.
So everybody take note. Joe bought the last one. It's his fault.
It's your fault,
Everybody
Joe.
send him hate.
Yeah, if you get an ARUF. I thought though, man, I could make some good money. I'm gonna go buy every single coil that's anywhere, and I'll sell it for double what I paid for it. Because Goodman coils never leak.
No, they don't. Hey, not the aluminums. I mean, come on. They leak as much as all the rest of the aluminum.
Yeah, the Goodman aluminum
I had
ones
a,
are pretty good, but
It was a 1999 Train variable speed 4-ton air handler that had a leaky coil in it. And the people didn't want to have to replace the air handler, and I said, well, I'll call and get a price on a coil, but I said, I can tell you, I can probably put an air handler in it cheaper than what that coil's going to cost you.
I tell people that damn coil costs 3 times as much as the air handler costs.
$1,100.
I know.
I've gotten that on a ream coil though, so if it's out of production, it's expensive.
Yeah, but you know what? I had to do a micro channel change out the other day. The condenser coil. I've only worked on 2 micro channels, and both of them are leaked in the same spot. And I looked at what the price of that coil would have been. That sucker was $1,000 for that coil. I was like, man, I'm glad the sucker's under warranty. $1,000 for that stupid condenser coil.
Well, they got to cover all those warranty microchannel coils with the ones that they manage to sell.
I guess. I don't know.
The new thing is, like, your warranty isn't a full 10 years if you don't register it. And that's the lady the other day. That was the $1,200 coil. 6 years old.
Wow.
Wasn't registered. Oh, well.
The ones that kill me are the ones that I go in the house that's 6 years old, like you said. Well, I've been having people put Freon in this thing for the last 3 years. And I'm like, well, how come nobody ever found a leak? Because at that point, it was still under warranty, but now it's not. Really?
I go to the supply house and I see guys all the time buy 5 tubes of leak stop every time they're in there. Johnstone has gotten so bad, like they used to have one one peg on the shelf, you know, with the rod sticking out with like 5 of them. Now their entire display on their counter, where you're actually like, it used to be somewhere out in the shelves, you know, you had to actually go get it. Now right there where you check out, their whole big counter.
Hey, hold on for a second.
Stop.
Hold on, I'll be right back. Hold on.
That's like epidemic right now, is leak stop and drop-ins on R22.
Yeah, just mess with Americans. Say, I need a tube of leak stop. And then when they hand you leak stop, say, no, not that one. I need the one up there on the shelf, the one in the sticks. It says Silvaloy. 15% leak stop.
All right. Is it this package right here?
They have a few different brands. They're like, literally when you go into Johnstone, there's 3 guys that could check you out at this little counter looking thing that's in the middle. That's like circle shaped. And the whole entire thing is covered in leak stops of different brands. Like that's their number one seller right now.
This is the Rector seal. And let me explain.
Rectal seal?
Right, yeah, this is the Rector seal. AC with AC free leak freeze in it. When I got to my house yesterday, I had a box at my front door from Rector Seal. I didn't call them. I didn't ask for this stuff. I had 14 of these in that box.
And the packing slip said there were 15, and they said they already put one in your unit, right?
Yeah. So, but I get this nice little letter. The guy had seen my stop leak experiment video. And he sent me all these samples of that stuff. And with a letter from Field Piece, a letter from Bristol, and some other letters from other people about, you know, how that stuff is approved for their products. So I'm going to do a video showing all the stuff that they sent me, and I'm going to invite that guy to come on the podcast with me and Zach, and let him do his spiel on the podcast of how great that stuff is.
Here's my question to you is, who is Bristol actually selling compressors to anymore? Because I don't think anybody actually uses them. York?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Doesn't make
Johnson Controls just got sued for leaking evaps and lost that class action lawsuit.
Well, you know, but any manufacturer could have lost that lawsuit.
Especially LG.
Yeah, well, yeah. I get that all the time. Well, so-and-so Goodman had a class action lawsuit. And I say, well, you know why? Because they have a class action lawsuit because there's more of them out there than anybody else. And what the lawyers and everybody else didn't tell you, that every other manufacturer out there should have been included in that class action lawsuit. Because every one of them leaked.
I've seen York pretty bad, though. We put in replacement aluminum coils.
Right.
And they leaked after 2 months.
Well, I don't have to deal with York because they're on the other side of town. So I don't hardly ever see any Yorks on my way. But, you know, if I was closer to Atlanta. This is one account
that happened to have them. You barely see them here. You barely see. It's weird, like the different geographics.
Right.
You see Goodman, Ream, and Train down here. You hardly see anything else.
Right. Well, we see a lot of Ream, a lot of Rude.
I'd say those guys would be 30% each, and everything else would be the other 10.
Right. Well, I see a lot of Train. You know, of course, see a lot of Goodman, Carrier. You know, the major manufacturers I see a lot of, but York, because like I said, they're way on the other side of Atlanta, so I don't really get to see them much. And every time I see one, I cringe because I'm like, man, I got to go drive to get the part. So, but I was able, that one that I worked on, he was a YouTube viewer, actually, the one with the leak. But his was a Coleman. So I was able to go to Johnson and pick that coil up. But yeah.
Johnstone carries Goodman around us.
Yeah, they carry Goodman, but they also should carry Coleman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Never seen a Coleman in person.
Well, just be glad.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen a York. Essentially, you're telling me it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, and they're the only ones that I know that do have a Bristol compressor in them. Because I know that
Bristol.
Do what? Oh, they own them.
Constant control.
So that's why. But now, Joe, you work on a lot of York, right? Y'all put it in.
We did for a couple years.
Now, how long ago was that?
About 3 years ago.
So did a compressor get quieter?
Did Bristols get quieter?
Yeah.
I think they did from the old school big
the tank
Bristols, yeah.
From when Goodman used to use them.
Yeah,
and
but
actually,
hey.
They're still a little bit. They're still, I had one customer. I ended up having to put a blanket. I think I did a video on that. It was a friend of mine.
You put a blanket on it?
Back and put a blanket on it because he didn't like the sound.
Well, the reason I asked is because at the supply house the other day, Packard was there, and Honeywell was there, but the Packard rep, because Packard carries a ton of different things. They carry LG compressors, they carry Bristol compressors, they carry all these things and they're known for capacitors and contactors, right? But they have so many different, aftermarket motors and stuff like that. And so the rep was like, and they carry Bristol compressors too. And he said they redesigned the recip, and it's a lot quieter now. They said they had it next to a scroll, and it was a lot quieter than the scroll. So
maybe
I was like,
maybe in its steady state.
Right. I don't know. Because I didn't even pay any attention to when I started that thing up how loud it actually was the other day. After I changed the coil in it.
Yeah, they have a little noise to them when they start.
Right.
But there's a big study about how they're more efficient than a scroll at higher ambient temperature.
Right. Well, it could be. I mean, hey, those old Bristol compressors are tanks, man. They'll keep on going. You can abuse them, and they'll they're noisy, but man, I was telling John I had an ICP the other day that was off on the internal, and I cooled that sucker down, and it never opened up. I had and this was like a 6-year-old compressor. Then I had a 19-year-old Goodman with a Bristol compressor in it, and that sucker, I opened it up and cooled it down, and it started right on up.
Yeah, sometimes they don't come back for it if they've been doing it a lot. That customer probably waited.
Well, the nice part about the LGs is the internals on the top of it, so you can change it if you need to.
Really, I haven't seen that. I've seen train units with them.
Yeah, if you need to, if it never opens back or never closes, you can just change it out.
I've seen them on train units, and they didn't have anything external on top of the compressor that I saw.
Well, this is it's just a clip like a thermistor on a mini split coil.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I haven't seen those.
Yeah,
maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I haven't had to come back on one yet. But
well, on an LG, that's where they're at, and then so they're you can change them fairly easy. So it's a lot better than if you get out to one and the thing is open and it won't close. At least you can leave the customer with air. You know what I mean? And they'll have to change the compressor. And LG's on its 3rd generation, so they used to have bad compressors. Those suckers would fail, but they're on their 3rd. So
anything that says LG on it, I'm gonna shy away from, man. I'm sorry. We've had 100% failure rate with evaporator coils.
On the mini.
I posted a picture on Instagram of it just being a fog machine.
Wow.
We have put over 1,200 pounds of gas in between two systems in the last year and a half.
Wow. Oh, I'm supposed to say, hey, Zach, how's it going?
Hey, if you get that leak stop rep on the podcast, though, Ralph, ask him that if leak stop's such a great thing, why manufacturers don't put it in new equipment.
I will. I've often wondered that myself.
Like the pre-filled inner tube tires for bicycles that come with slime in them already.
Yeah, exactly. It would minimize their warranty claims, so it would not make any sense for them not to put it in there.
Well, you know, I did last year. One of the guys, you know, YouTube's a blessing and it's a curse. You know, when it really can, it really is. I mean, if you know, if you have a complaint on something and you bitch enough, somebody's going to wind up hearing it, and they're going to respond one way or another. And so this guy saw that stop leak experiment where I put all that stuff in the jar and it turned to wax. And he said, you know, it piqued my interest, so I decided to reach out to you. So, you know, some people could say, well, you know, just stop crying. That's just part of it. But no, if you cry enough, somebody's going to listen to you. And you put it out there on the net. That's like that company I can't talk about. You know, it didn't.
Did they send you a cease and desist letter?
No. The guy called me. The president or vice president of contractor relations called me, and we talked for about 45 minutes or so on the phone. And he finally said, what would it take for you to remove that video from YouTube? See, it's one thing to talk bad about them, because if you're giving what has happened to you personally, I don't think they can really tell you to stop. You know what I mean? And this happened to me personally, so I could tell you. So they paid me to take it down. I can never talk about them again. Well, for a couple of years anyway, because then everybody be gone. You know, the cycle. Yeah. So they won't even know who I am.
To take it down, man. I need to start talking crap on home warranty companies on my YouTube channel. I want money. I want that kind of money.
They paid me to take it down.
I could tell you, we had a call we went out to, and it was a bad TXV, and I told them how much it was going to be to replace, and they're like, oh, well, a home warranty company, I'm not going to say any names because I don't even remember which one it was, so they'll do it for $100. Like, okay, well, I can't, there's no way I can compete with that because you're paying them that premium every year.
Yeah, but even
I doubt they're going to do it, but
wow,
they're going to have a guy come out and he's going to see low suction and say, oh, that guy before was an idiot.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have 10 pounds of R22 in your system additional to what's in there.
I went out to a house a week ago or 2 weeks ago, something like that. And she said, well, upstairs isn't working. And last year we had to put Freon in it. So I walked up to the unit and that sucker was blowing out some hot air. And I was like, well, so I put my gauges on it and I had a 43-pound suction and a 275-pound head. So I walked back in and said, look,
it needs way more Freon.
yeah. I said, I can't do anything until I wash the coil. Why do you got to do that? And I had to go through the whole spiel. And she said, well, all right, just go ahead and do it. And so then after I got done washing it, I had a 13-pound suction and a like 140-pound head. Like, well, so I go back inside and I'm like, look, you got to change something, and it's probably going to be your indoor coil. Well, we're just trying to sell the house. Can't you just put Freon in it? I said, well, if I do, if I put some R22 in there, you know, you're talking $700 probably. And if it leaks out in 2 weeks, you're out that money. You know, and you're still going to have to replace the part. Well, my husband says to do whatever's the cheapest thing to do. That's what he wants you to do. And I said, well, unfortunately, the cheapest thing to do is not the cheapest thing to do. I said, I can put Freon in it, and that's the cheapest thing to do. But in the end, you might wind up spending $2,400, you know, at the end of it. Well, we don't want to do that. So they said, go ahead and put a coil in it. And that was one that I actually went back and put, you know, because I couldn't get the coil. It wasn't I couldn't get the coil. I couldn't get to him that day because the guy changed that microchannel coil on. I had to wait for him to get home after I was done with the job for almost 2.5 hours. So I couldn't get over to that house to change the evaporator. So I went over there and just put some replacement refrigerant on top of the 22 that was there. But I'm going to actually pull all that 22 out, or all that stuff out of it, and recover it and put 407C back in it. So
that would have been a perfect place to use some recovered that you'd been saving.
Yeah, I know, but I know it would have been the perfect place, but then I would have had to recover it again.
But you still have it.
Yeah, yeah, man.
A little more, maybe.
Yeah, Joe's full of bright ideas. But what happened? But what would have happened if it would have leaked all out?
Then they're out that money. That's how it goes.
No,
it's not your fault.
Did you charge them to put it in?
No, because I was going to. I'm going back to change the.
That's why I said
so
you could have put some. You could have put some of your
recover 22
in there, and then taken it all out, and still had most of what you put in there.
Hopefully.
Honestly, I'd leave them down.
I know exactly why you say that, because there's
a back. Yeah.
No, they're gonna call back. I got them scared enough. You know what I mean? And that is a good reason not to put it back in there. You know, put 22 back in there, because I could have sold that somewhere else.
The thing about it is, I would just leave them down in that case, because it's not your fault that the unit's leaking. It's not your fault 22 is expensive, and it's not your fault that they don't want to spend money. So if they want to save money and, done as cheap as possible, then they're going to have to wait. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, well. But see, that one, because I told them that I was going to come back the next day and change the evaporator, but I couldn't get back there to get it done. So that, in that case, it was my fault. You know what I mean? So I felt kind of responsible that I didn't want to leave them without cooling, being my fault. So that's why I went back up there and just gassed them up.
There again, it's not your fault the other customer dicked you around for 2.5 hours.
Well,
so shit rolls downhill, man.
I know. But I'm one of those. I will change that coil, though. Even if I had to sneak over there in the middle of the night and, loosen the Schrader core or something.
You fix it too good, then they're not gonna do the repair.
Yeah. Well, he did say, because she was like, because I told her, I said, look, apparently the guy that was here last year that just gassed you up didn't do his job right. Well, what do you mean? I said, because that coil that I just washed was way dirty. I mean, it wasn't clean last year and just got that dirty this year.
You know what's crazy? Like, I see people on YouTube videos all the time cleaning condenser coils. They don't get dirty down here.
they're dirty.
It's insane. Like I try washing them when I see high head pressures. I wash coils. Nothing. Like this unit's 18 years old. The water's not even brown.
Really?
They've never done it before. They've never had anybody even suggest it. And the head pressures, as soon as the coil dries off, it's right where it was. And I'm like we have a few accounts where they do, where they're in really dusty environments. But
you guys don't have cottonwood trees down there, though, do you?
That must be it. Like 9 times out of 10,
No,
I hardly ever see.
You know what mine is most of the time? Mine is grass from the landscapers. And let me tell you something. Grass is my worst enemy. And that grass that I don't know what they use, what kind of grass it is, but it's so thin. And it's perfect size. It fits right in the coil.
And we must have a different one down here because it's very rare that I see it.
Yeah, dryers are one.
Dryer lint.
Oh yeah.
Dryer lint's bad too.
The girl I'm seeing, she when she bought her house, it was the air conditioner was in bad shape, and so she was like, well, I can't afford to get it replaced, so she just put a bunch of window units in her house. And then so she just refinanced her house, and I put a new outdoor unit, the new coil in for her because her furnace was new. She had a new furnace put in when she bought the house, and so I'm like, well, I got to move the dryer vent because it is 2 foot above the condenser. So I said, I got to move the dryer vent. But then when I went looking for a way to relocate the dryer vent, I was like, there's no way. I can't relocate the dryer vent. It would go up and come back down and have to go back up again. So I just can't do it. So I wound up moving the condenser over about 2 foot and 5 foot off the house. So it's far enough away from the dryer vent that it's not going to cause an issue anymore. But it was on top of the dryer vent. I mean, the dryer vent was on top of the coil. And it just,
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like the bounce sheets or fabric softener or what it is, but that dryer lint, when it gets packed in there on it, man, it's like it don't matter what kind of the chemicals you use, it just takes forever to get it loosened up to come off of there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
I've seen that at a commercial laundry room once. This coil was ridiculous.
Yeah, mine's pretty close to the condenser, but I keep a good eye on it. But I need to move it.
Well, guys, I think I'm gonna shut her down for tonight. I'm glad you guys come on here. This was fun.
Yeah.
So,
how many people was watching?
I think the 8 or 9 on average throughout. So, I don't quite get the viewers that the Cowboys get.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know where it'll come though. I'm telling you,
Yeah. And that's what I've been so busy. I've got 3 or 4 episodes of the podcast that I still got to get finished up and get put up. I just don't have the time. That's why I thought
I was going to, like I said, I was going to do a hangout, and Zach said, "Well, somebody else is doing one." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Because I didn't want. If I would have done one, then probably most everybody would have been watching that one. So I didn't want to.
Yeah. Well, I'll shoot you a message on Facebook. You might get it in a month or whatever, but I'll shoot you my email and stuff.
Yeah.
So that way, when you do one, you can add me to your list of people. And
I don't ever put it. The only thing I do is I'll go into one of the groups, like the Cowboys group or something like that, and I'll post a link there. But most of the time, just the subscribers see it and they just join.
Okay.
Generally, that's what happens. So, but I'll post it in one of the groups and or I'll say a little bit. Sometimes I don't even know if I'm going to do it. Until I just do it.
Yeah, I could have spent my evening editing that stuff this evening, but I was like, you know what? I'd like to do something, do a hangouts, and
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, hell, I'm glad I came on.
Yeah.
Well, when he